Chapter 938. Kill me. Qin Feiyang frowned. This Guofeng was quite bold. He actually wanted to get rid of him. At the same time, Guiyun fell into deep thought when he heard this. A moment later, he looked up at Guofeng and said in a low voice, "According to the members of the first pagoda, Ancestor Mu is very powerful and Pei values him greatly. I'm afraid it won't be easy to get rid of him." "Of course I know that. But we can use a soft method," Guofeng said. "A soft method?" Guiyun was doubtful. Guofeng said, "In a few days, I'll invite him to a banquet and take the initiative to show my goodwill. Then, I'll take the opportunity to poison him at the table." "Poison him?" Guiyun frowned. Guofeng said, "I know this method is a little despicable, but it doesn't matter to someone like him. Are you sure you want to do this?" Guiyun looked at him with hesitation in his eyes. "I'm sure. And I've already thought about what poison to use." Guofeng nodded. "What poison?" Guiyun asked. "The venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion." Guofeng said word by word with a cold glint in his eyes. Guiyun's pupils constricted. He seemed to be very wary of the venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion. Next, the two of them secretly discussed for a while more before leaving. The Spirit Serpent Emperor asked, "Qin Feiyang, what is the bloodthirsty scorpion?" Qin Feiyang said, "It's a poisonous creature from 10,000 years ago. It's very scary." "How scary?" The Spirit Serpent Emperor was curious. Qin Feiyang said, "The antidote pill can't remove it. Once poisoned, you'll die within 3 breaths." "What?" The Spirit Serpent Emperor was shocked. In this world, there was actually poison that couldn't be removed by the antidote pill? The Spirit Serpent Emperor asked, "Then what do you plan to do?" "I didn't want to deal with them at first, but they were too insensible. They actually wanted to plot against me. And they used such a despicable and vicious method. In that case, this time, I'll get rid of all of them and make the Scorpion tribe disappear completely," Qin Feiyang said with a bone-chilling killing intent in his tone. The Spirit Serpent Emperor asked, "So, you've already thought of a plan?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Ugh." Spirit Serpent Emperor was stunned. He hadn't even thought of a way to deal with it, yet he had already said such big words. This was a little ridiculous. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. The Spirit Serpent Emperor also tactfully fell silent. Time passed by slowly. After a few hundred breaths, Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly flashed with a bright light. "Have you thought of it?" Spirit Serpent Emperor hurriedly asked. Qin Feiyang nodded, a cold smile appearing in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, Fatso appeared out of thin air. As soon as Fatso came out, he said impatiently, "What are you doing?" "Fat Lord is going into seclusion." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. It seemed like Fatso was starting to get anxious after learning about the benefits of the purple gold dragon blood. "I'll go into seclusion after this matter is settled," Qin Feiyang said. "What is it?" Fatso was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, "Help me find a spider called Blood Soul Spider." "Blood Soul Spider?" Fatso was slightly stunned and asked, "What's the use of it?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "The Blood Soul Spider is also a highly poisonous creature from 10,000 years ago. It's even stronger than the bloodthirsty scorpion." Fatso's pupils shrank and he said in surprise, "Why are you looking for it?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Of course it's to neutralize the venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion." "What do you mean?" Fatso was more and more confused. Although the venom of the Blood Soul Spider and the bloodthirsty scorpion is enough to kill people, if you swallow these two venoms at the same time, it will have the effect of neutralizing the toxicity. In short, the combination of the venom of these two creatures is equivalent to the antidote. Qin Feiyang explained. Fatso and the Spirit Snake Emperor looked at each other. Was this the legendary fight poison with poison? Fatso frowned and said, "Then where is Fat Lord going to find this Blood Soul Spider? If I knew, why would I ask you out?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Fatso pursed his lips and said helplessly, "All right, I'll go ask Li He first." After saying that, he opened a portal and left. When the portal disappeared, Qin Feiyang looked at the Spirit Snake Emperor and said with a smile, "Let's go and find that key person." "What key person?" The Spirit Snake Emperor was suspicious. A person who can crush anyone into pieces. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. He changed into a clean set of clothes and opened a portal. The spirit snake emperor looked at him in confusion and then shrank its body, turning into a stream of light and coiled around Qin Feiyong's index finger. The color of its skin quickly turned silver without any impurities. At first glance, Qin Feiyong looked like he was wearing an exquisite ring. Qin Feiyong raised his hand and shook his index finger. He nodded and said with a smile, "Your ability to change color is really good. Are you jealous? But this is something that can't be envied." The spirit snake emperor smiled proudly. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. He retracted his aura to the extreme and entered the portal. At the next moment he descended on a street. On the street there was an endless stream of people. And right in front of him there was a restaurant with dragons and phoenixes. It was the Dragon Phoenix restaurant. Although it was still morning and not meal time, there were many people entering and leaving the restaurant. Qin Feiyong tidied his clothes and strode into the Dragon Phoenix restaurant. "Young Master Mu, what a rare guest. What have you been busy with recently? It's been so long since you came to our Dragon Phoenix restaurant." A waiter immediately came up to greet him, nodding and bowing with a smile. To the waiter of the Dragon Phoenix restaurant, Qin Feiyong could be considered an acquaintance. "I'm busy cultivating. I don't have time," Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. The waiter said with embarrassment, "Young master is so talented and hard-working. You really make us mediocre people feel ashamed." Qin Feiyong smiled. The waiter asked, "Young master, do you want to sit in the hall or go to the pavilion?" "Let's sit in the hall," Qin Feiyong said. "All right, young master, follow me." The waiter shouted and turned around to lead Qin Feiyong to an empty table. There were already many guests in the hall. When they saw Qin Feiyong, there was a trace of curiosity in their eyes. During the last auction of the Dragon Phoenix wine, Qin Feiyong suppressed everyone and won the first place. However, in the end he gave the opportunity to young Master Hao. Since then, this matter had been discussed enthusiastically in the Dragon Phoenix restaurant. Therefore, they all wanted to see what was so extraordinary about Qin Feiyong. And towards all of this, Qin Feiyong had always been calm. He sat at the dining table, looked at the waiter and said with a smile, "Give me a pot of dragon's wine and a few special dishes." "All right." The waiter nodded and immediately went to arrange it. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at the top floor. Why wasn't there any sound of the zither today? Not long after, the waiter walked over with a pot of dragon's wine and 3 dishes. Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and looked at the waiter, asking, "Why isn't your young miss playing the zither today?" The waiter came to a realization and said, "So young master is here for my young miss, but it's not time yet." Qin Feiyong was stunned. The waiter had clearly misunderstood, and he had just asked casually, "Young master, please enjoy." After the waiter finished setting up the dishes, he said with a smile and turned to leave. Just as the waiter left, a young man at the next table glanced at Qin Feiyong from the corner of his eyes, then stood up, holding the wine pot and wine cup. He walked to the opposite side of Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, "Brother Mu, can we sit down and chat for a while?" Qin Feiyong looked at him suspiciously, stretched out his hand and said with a smile, "Sure, please take a seat." The young man sat next to Qin Feiyong and poured wine for Qin Feiyong, saying, "Brother Mu, there's something that has been bothering me for a long time." "What is it?" Qin Feiyong asked. The young man poured the wine, then put down the wine pot and asked in a low voice, "What was the answer you gave last time?" Qin Feiyong was stunned, then shook his head and said with a smile, "It's just a trivial answer. Why are you so persistent? Perhaps in Brother Mu's eyes, this is just a small matter, but in our eyes this is a very inconceivable thing." The young man smiled bitterly. "Yes, the young lady of the Longfeng Pavilion is arrogant and mysterious. Think about it, over the years I don't know how many people have tried their best to see her, but they have always been rejected. Even young Master Hao couldn't move her. Thus, to be able to obtain her approval is not an easy task." The other guests next to them couldn't help but sigh. Qin Feiyong glanced at these people with a hint of disdain in the depths of his eyes. Wasn't it just a woman? Was there a need to be like this? He couldn't figure out what was in these people's minds all day long. The young man put down the wine cup and sincerely cupped his hands. "Brother Mu, I really hope that you can solve the doubts in our hearts. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, It's not a secret, so there's no harm in telling you. The answer I gave is that since ancient times, kings have been fickle, and the most ruthless royal family. Since ancient times, kings have been fickle, and the most ruthless royal family. Everyone immediately fell into deep thought. They remembered that in that painting, there were mountains and rivers, people at dawn, ferocious beasts and slaughter, and in the sky there was a 5-clawed golden dragon floating, looking down at all of this coldly. I understand. Since ancient times, the symbol of every king is a 5-clawed golden dragon. So that 5-clawed golden dragon represents the king, and the mountains and rivers the common people, and the slaughter represent everything in the world. That 5-clawed golden dragon is high up in the sky, looking down at all of this coldly. This reflects one word: ruthless. Since ancient times, kings have been fickle, and the most ruthless royal family. This sentence just so happens to fully explain the true meaning of that painting. Brother Mu is really brilliant to be able to think of this answer. I admire you. The young man cupped his hands and smiled. The others also understood and cast admiring gazes at Qin Feiyong one after another. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. He didn't expect that an answer would actually cause a sensation. He picked up the wine cup and was about to drink it, but at this moment a hearty laugh came from outside the door. Hey, what's going on today? It's so lively so early in the morning? Before he finished speaking, a young man in embroidered clothes entered the Dragon Phoenix house. Behind him there was a large group of young men and women. Chapter 939. Are you finally here? Qin Feiyong muttered as a bright light flickered in the depths of his eyes. The leader was none other than young Master Hao. And this time he came to the Dragon Phoenix house precisely to wait for this young Master Hao. But he didn't take the initiative to greet him, because he knew that young Master Hao would take the initiative to greet him. Sure enough, when he saw Qin Feiyong, a smile crept onto young Master Hao's face, and he said, Brother Mu, may I have the honor to invite you up for a few drinks? These words were quite polite. Is that necessary? The group of young men and women behind him raised their eyebrows without leaving a trace. In their opinion, Qin Feiyong was indeed a talent, but compared to them, he was still far from being worthy of sitting with them, not to mention sitting with them and drinking. But this was young Master Hao's invitation, and they didn't dare to refute it. Qin Feiyong raised his head to look at young Master Hao, and then glanced at the group of young men and women. Over the years, what kind of people had he not seen? Looking at the eyes of the group of young men and women, he could guess what these people were thinking. However, young Master Hao was very sincere in inviting him. Mu, didn't you hear young Master Hao's words? One of the women with heavy makeup saw that Qin Feiyong didn't speak for a long time, and a trace of impatience crept onto her face. Her tone was also very cold. I'm not deaf, of course I heard it. However, I know my place and I don't deserve to sit with you disciples of famous sections. If young Master Hao wants to have a few drinks with me, then you can only lower yourself and sit in this hall, Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. It could be seen that these people were all vain people, so he might as well satisfy their vanity. Sure enough. Hearing his words, the group of young men and women all had bright smiles on their faces. At the same time, the disdain on their faces became even stronger. What was young Master Hao's identity? He actually made young Master Hao lower himself and sit in this hall. Was it possible? To think that this person dared to open his mouth. Who did he think he was? Young Master Hao stared at Qin Feiyong in a complicated way, nodded, smiled and said, All right, let's drink to our heart's content in this hall today. After saying that, he walked towards Qin Feiyong. What? The group of young men and women were petrified. The other guests in the hall, as well as the waiters in the restaurant, were also in disbelief. This was because many people knew that young Master Hao had never stayed in the hall before. This was his first time. This ancestor Mu really had too much face to let young Master Hao break the precedent. Young Master Hao, isn't this inappropriate? The gorgeous woman caught up with young Master Hao and said with a frown, What's wrong? If you can't swallow your pride, you can go to the private room upstairs. Anyway, don't spoil my fun, young Master Hao said without looking back. Then he walked straight to Qin Feiyang. The young man from the very beginning also immediately picked up his wine jug and wine cup and stood up to give up his seat. Please have a seat. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and said with a smile. Young Master Hao smiled faintly and sat opposite Qin Feiyang. The group of young men and women looked at each other and finally walked to Qin Feiyang's table. Wait. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and said with a smile. I didn't ask you to sit. Why? Are you afraid that we'll eat and drink your food? Don't worry. You don't need to pay a single gold coin today. All the expenses will be on us. The young men snorted coldly. Just a gold coin. I don't care about it. I'm just worried that sitting with a country bumpkin like me will bring shame to your young masters and young mistresses. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The group of young men and women's faces immediately darkened. Obviously, he didn't give them any face. Young Master Hao waved his hand and said, That's enough. Just find a seat and don't make a fuss. Since young Master Hao had spoken, these people naturally didn't dare to make a fuss. There was an empty table at the side. A group of people sat around the table, their faces full of anger. Although they didn't say anything now, this grudge had been formed. The waiters of the restaurant also became busy. After all, these people were not only regulars here, but also disciples of famous families in the city. They didn't dare to neglect them. One of the waiters brought a set of clean cutlery and wine glasses to young Master Hao. Before leaving, he gave Qin Feiyang a look of admiration. In this divine city, only Qin Feiyang dared to treat these foppish disciples with such an attitude. Young Master Hao said suspiciously, Brother Mu, I heard that you've been cultivating in seclusion. How come you're free to come to the Dragon Phoenix restaurant today? I don't have time to be free. I'm just relaxing appropriately. Qin Feiyang picked up the wine pot containing the dragon's wine and stood up to pour wine for young Master Hao while shaking his head and smiling. That's true. Relaxing appropriately is helpful for cultivation. However, you're still not telling the truth. Young Master Hao transmitted his voice meaningfully. Qin Feiyang was slightly startled. He returned to his seat and thought to himself, What do you mean by that? Brother Mu, don't play dumb. Although you're hiding it very well, I've already heard from my father that you've already broken through to the War Saint realm. I believe that I'll have another junior brother soon. Young Master Mu transmitted his voice with a smile. You found out so quickly? Qin Feiyang was surprised. It seemed like Elder Wang had told the Chief Pagoda Master. I have to thank you for this. Without your help, even if I broke through to the War King, I might not be able to become the Chief Pagoda Master's disciple. Let me toast to young Master Hao. Qin Feiyang raised his wine cup and laughed. Brother Mu, you're too polite. I'm just an introducer. What really moved my father was your hard work. Congratulations. Young Master Hao also raised his wine cup. Clang! The two of them lightly clinked their wine cups, and then drank it all in one gulp. Next, young Master Hao transmitted his voice. Brother Mu, I have some doubts in my heart. Can you answer them for me? Please speak, young master. Qin Feiyang said. Young Master Hao waved his hand and said, Sai, don't call me young master if you don't mind. Just call me brother. Qin Feiyang laughed out loud. This is my honor. It doesn't look like you're trying to curry favor with me. But if you say you're not trying to curry favor with me, it's a little like you're trying to curry favor with me. Tell me, why are you so hard to see through? Young Master Hao shook his head, feeling rather helpless. Qin Feiyang said, This is because we haven't opened our hearts yet, so we can't be considered true friends. Young Master Hao said, Then tell me, when can we be honest with each other? Time. Because only time can let you clearly recognize a person. Qin Feiyang said. Young Master Hao was startled and laughed bitterly. Chatting with you is really too tiring. Let's not talk nonsense. I want to know, how did you manage to break through from the 9-star war sect to the war sage in a mere 10 days? Young Master Hao looked at him suspiciously, with a trace of anticipation. Of course, these words were also transmitted in secret. Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment, then laughed. I can only say that I was lucky and obtained a good fortune. However, hearing this, young Master Hao's expression immediately became serious, and he said with a sound transmission, Brother Mu, I know it's very impolite to inquire about your privacy like this, But I really hope that you can be honest with me. Qin Feiyong looked at him suspiciously. Sigh. Young Master Hao sighed deeply and asked, "Can you see through my cultivation?" Qin Feiyong seriously observed young Master Hao for a moment, and said, 9-star war sect? Yes. To be honest, my talent isn't bad. I've already stepped into the 9-star war sect after cultivating for less than 100 years. However, ever since I stepped into the 9-star war sect, I felt as if I had encountered a bottleneck and was unable to break through. Young Master Hao sighed, looking somewhat disappointed. So it's like that. Qin Feiyong was suddenly enlightened, and then asked in confusion, Head Pagoda Master's cultivation is profound. Why don't you ask him for help? Is it useful to look for him? Of course. If I was just a martial warrior, martial master, or martial sect, it would definitely be useful to look for him, because he can help me refine a high-quality Scarlet Fire Glass pill, and help me break through. But now that I am a 9-star war sect, I have never heard of any pill that can allow me to break through the shackles of the war sect and directly step into the war saint. To be honest, I've already been trapped in the 9-star war sect for several years. I'm really on the verge of despair. Young Master Hao said dejectedly. Qin Feiyong fell silent. A moment later, a light flashed in his eyes as he sent a sound transmission. I can help you break through to the war saint realm, but you have to promise to do 2 things for me. Really? Young Master Hao's gaze trembled as he looked at him longingly. Qin Feiyong nodded. All right. As long as you can help me break through to the war saint realm, not to mention 2 things, even 200 things won't be a problem. Young Master Hao sent a sound transmission, his breathing somewhat hurried. First, you can't tell anyone that I helped you break through to the war saint realm, including your father. Qin Feiyong said. That's not a problem. Young Master Hao said without hesitation. Qin Feiyong said. Second, I want you to help me eradicate the remnants of the Scorpion tribe. Young Master Hao raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, why? Do they have a grudge against you? Of course there's a grudge. Otherwise, why would I eradicate them? Qin Feiyong said. This is not a small matter. Let's not talk about the others in the Scorpion tribe, just Guiyun and Guofeng. These 2 are the kings of the main tower. Even if it's me, I can't make a decision on my own. Young Master Hao sent a sound transmission. Qin Feiyong said. I know that, but what if they poisoned you first? Poison me? The more young Master Hao heard, the more puzzled he became. One had to know. He was the son of the chief pagoda master. Even if Guiyun and Guofeng borrowed courage from the heavens, they wouldn't dare to poison him. But what did Qin Feiyong mean by that? Qin Feiyong said, Don't worry about why I asked you that. Just answer me, if they poison you first, can you get rid of them? Nonsense. If they dare to harm me, I will make sure that none of them will live to see the sun tomorrow. Young Master Hao's words were very domineering, but he did have the qualifications to do so. That's good. In a few days, Guofeng will invite me to a banquet. At that time, I would like to ask you to do this. Next. Qin Feiyong said a lot to young Master Hao, and these words were all secretly transmitted, so only young Master Hao knew about it. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Alchemy Room 10 of the first tower. Qin Feiyong stood in the alchemy room, completely focused on refining the battle chi pill. After all, with the addition of the Ghost Snake Emperor, the number of battle chi pills he needed was even more than before, so he had to prepare enough battle chi pills at all times. Shua. At noon, Fatso appeared out of thin air in the alchemy room, hurriedly ran to Qin Feiyong's side, and said, Boss, found it. As he spoke, he took out a transparent glass bottle, only the size of a thumb, half filled with blood-red liquid. Qin Feiyong ignored Fatso. After the battle chi pill was out of the furnace, he took the glass bottle and pulled out the cork. A pungent stench immediately rushed into his nostrils, making him feel nauseous. Holding his breath and carefully observing for a moment, Qin Feiyong nodded and said with a smile, It is indeed the venom of the blood soul spider. Where did you get it? Fire Phoenix Mountain Range. It took a lot of effort to get it. Fatso chuckled. Qin Feiyong looked at Fatso, only to see that Fatso's clothes were ragged, and the blood on his wounds had not even dried. Obviously, he had suffered a lot in the Fire Phoenix Mountain Range. You've worked hard. Patting Fatso's shoulder, Qin Feiyang put away the jade bottle. What are you going to do now? Fatso asked. Nothing, just wait for Guofeng to come to me. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. Then he took out an image crystal and sent a message to Yin Wei. Soon Yin Wei's image appeared. Have you found out the address of the Mu family? Qin Feiyang asked. Yin Wei said in a deep voice. No, there are many people who know the existence of the Mu family, but no one knows where they are. Qin Feiyang's brows suddenly tightened. Fatso glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at Yin Wei and said, Li He also doesn't know? Yin Wei shook his head and said, according to Li He, only the Pill Tower's chief pagoda and his confidants know where the Mu family is. That's troublesome. Fatso muttered. It was much more difficult to pry open the chief pagoda's mouth than prying open Li He's mouth. Suddenly, Fatso seemed to have thought of something, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, by the way, boss, why don't you ask young master how, maybe he also knows? Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, looked up at Yin Wei and said, you don't have to investigate this matter anymore, I'll handle it. Okay. Yin Wei nodded. Dong. At this moment there was a knock on the door. Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at the stone door of the cultivation room at the same time. Could it be Guofeng? I still have something to do, you be careful in the trading pavilion. Qin Feiyang reminded Yin Wei and turned off the image crystal, then sent Fatso to the castle. Then with a wave of his hand, the stone door slowly opened, and a familiar face came into sight. It was Guofeng. It's you? But Qin Feiyang pretended to be surprised. What? Am I not welcome? Guofeng said with a cold face. Senior brother Guofeng personally came to find me. This is my honor. How can I not welcome you? Come in quickly. Qin Feiyang smiled and then stepped aside. Guofeng looked at the alchemy room and shook his head. Let's not talk too much. This time I came to invite you to Longfeng House for a few drinks. Huh? Qin Feiyang was stunned and couldn't recover for a long time. I know with our relationship you will definitely suspect that this may be a trap. But this time, I came to invite you with sincerity. Because there is a good saying, it is better to squash enmity than keep it alive, so I want to be friends with you, I just don't know if you are willing to give me this face? Guofeng cupped his hands and said, his face full of sincerity. If Qin Feiyang didn't know Guofeng's plan in advance, he might have been deceived by this hypocritical face. This? Qin Feiyang sneered in his heart, but his face revealed a hesitant expression. It seems that I don't have the chance to be friends with you. Sorry to disturb you. Guofeng sighed deeply with a trace of regret on his face. Then, he cupped his hands and turned to leave. It's a pity that you don't want to be an actor. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said with a smile, Senior brother Guofeng, wait. What's the matter? Guofeng stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. To be honest, I really can't believe that you can say such words, so I have a doubtful attitude. But I can see sincerity on your face. Since you have already let it go, wouldn't it seem that I am not magnanimous if I still haggle over it? So, I will be friends with you, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Guofeng immediately revealed a friendly smile and asked, what about the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Friendliness was just a facade, and under this facade, there was a murderous knife hidden. Go, of course I have to go. Wait for me first, let me change my clothes. I have been refining pills these days and my body is covered in dust. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he closed the stone door. Friends? Do you really think that I want to be friends with you? Don't be naive. Chapter 940. At the same time, inside the alchemy room, Qin Feiyang's eyes also turned cold. This Guofeng really knew how to pretend. He took out the image crystal and his battle chi surged. Buzz. Soon, a young man in white appeared in the air. It was young Master Hao. 3 days ago, in order to facilitate communication, he and young Master Hao established a contract bridge. Is he here? Young Master Hao asked. Yeah, he invited me to the Dragon Phoenix house. Qin Feiyang laughed. Young Master Hao said, have you found the blood soul spider's venom? Found it. Don't worry, I won't let you be in any danger. Of course, I don't dare to let anything happen to you. After all, I don't want to be hunted down by the chief pagoda master. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. As long as you know. You can go first, send me a message later. Young Master Hao said. Qin Feiyang nodded. The two of them turned off the image crystal at the same time. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, killing intent flashed in his eyes, and he changed into a clean set of clothes. Next, he opened the stone door and walked out of the alchemy room. The killing intent in Guofeng's eyes had already been hidden, and he appeared to be extremely friendly, but in reality he was afraid that Qin Feiyang would change his mind at the last minute. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Let's go." Guofeng opened the teleportation gate to show his politeness and let Qin Feiyang enter first. Qin Feiyang chuckled and walked into the teleportation gate. Dragon Phoenix House. In front of the door, two people appeared out of thin air. The two waiters standing at the door were surprised to see Qin Feiyang and Guofeng standing together. Why were the two of them walking together? But the waiter also knew what to ask and what not to ask. A waiter greeted them with a flattering smile. "Young masters, please come in," Guofeng said. "Take us to the private room." "Okay." The waiter immediately turned around and led the way. 4th floor. Private room number 3. The waiter pushed open the door and retreated to the side. Qin Feiyang and the other person entered the private room and carefully scanned the room. Inside the private room there was an independent tea room, dining room and bedroom. Although the decorations were not luxurious, it was very clean and tidy. "Are the two young masters satisfied?" the man asked with a smile. "Yes." Guofeng nodded. The waiter asked, "What would you like to order?" Guofeng smiled faintly and said, 2 pots of dragon's wine. As for the rest, you can do as you deem fit." "All right." The shop assistant nodded, bowed, and left. Guofeng's eyes flashed as he pointed at the tea house and said with a smile, "Junior brother Mu, shall we go and have some tea first?" "Sure." Qin Feiyang readily agreed. He didn't seem to be on guard at all. The two of them walked into the tea room and sat opposite each other in front of the coffee table. Guofeng personally cleaned the tea set, boiled the water and brewed the tea. Not long after, the boiling teapot emitted a refreshing tea fragrance. Although Qin Feiyang had a defenseless appearance from beginning to end, he had actually been secretly paying attention to Guofeng's every move. This was because poisoning could not only be done on the dining table but also in the tea. However, during the entire process of Guofeng making tea, he didn't notice any small movements from Guofeng. "Please." Guofeng picked up a teacup and handed it to Qin Feiyang with both hands. Qin Feiyang took it in his hands, put it at the tip of his nose and smelled it. After tasting it, he nodded and smiled. A mellow fragrance flowing between the teeth, and also carrying a hint of orchids, not bad. Guofeng was stunned for a moment, then laughed. "It seems that senior brother Mu likes to drink tea very much." Qin Feiyang laughed. "To be honest, I am not interested in wine, but I have a special liking for tea. So it's like that." Guofeng revealed a look of understanding, and then a light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He took out the Qingkuan bag, as if he was looking for something. Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. "Found it." A moment later, Guofeng raised his head and smiled at Qin Feiyang. He took out a tea set from the Qingkuan bag and placed it on the tea table. Qin Feiyang looked down, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. This tea set consisted of a teapot and 6 teacups. It was emerald green like jade with a hazy luster without any flaws. This tea set is made of Qinghai nephrite, called Qinghai Jiaojiao. Using this Qinghai Jiaojiao to make tea can completely remove the impurities in the tea leaves and make the tea more fragrant. Since junior brother Qin likes to drink tea so much, I will give this tea set to you." Guofeng laughed. "Qinghai nephrite." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he quickly waved his hand. "This is too precious, I can't accept it. This kind of jade could be called the best jade." A fingertip of it was enough to let an ordinary person live a worry-free life for several lifetimes. And among the royal family and nobles, Qinghai nephrite was also a symbol of status. It was said that the imperial jade seal of the Great Qin Empire was made of Qinghai nephrite. One could imagine how valuable this tea set was. No matter how precious something is, it needs to be used by someone to show its extraordinariness. And to tell you the truth, junior brother Qin, I don't like drinking tea very much, so it will only be a pearl covered in dust if I keep it. So, junior brother Qin, don't refuse." Guofeng carefully pushed the teapot and teacups to Qin Feiyang. This, Qin Feiyang was a little hesitant. To be honest, he was a little tempted. Because as Guofeng said, the tea set made of Qinghai nephrite could indeed remove the impurities and odors in the tea leaves, making the tea more mellow and pure. It was no exaggeration to say that even the inferior tea leaves could be used to make the best tea. It could be said that this set of Qinghai Jiaojiao was something that countless tea drinkers dreamed of. But the problem was that he didn't know whether Guofeng had done anything to this tea set. Seeing this, Guofeng looked dissatisfied and said, "If you still think of me as a friend, take it." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. "That's right. Come on, now I'll use this Qinghai Jiaojiao to make a pot of good tea for you. By the way, I'll let you check it out." Guofeng smiled and began to clean the tea set. Qin Feiyang smiled but didn't say anything, carefully paying attention to Guofeng's every move. At last, until Guofeng finished making the tea, he didn't find anything strange. "Try it." Guofeng picked up the teapot, poured a cup, and pushed it in front of Qin Feiyang. Then, he poured another cup for himself, raised his head and drank it up, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "The taste is really much better than before." Seeing this, Qin Feiyang completely let go of his doubts. Guofeng dared to drink it directly, so there must be no problem with the tea set. Guofeng probably gave him the Qinghai Jiaojiao just to let him completely relax his vigilance. Then, Qin Feiyang also picked up the teacup, put it to his mouth and tasted it. There was a trace of shock on his face. This pot of tea and the previous pot of tea were made of the same tea leaves. However, the taste was completely different. It was mellower and sweeter. And it also had the smell of the sea, which made people feel relaxed and couldn't help but be intoxicated. "How is it?" "I didn't lie to you," Guofeng said with a smile. Qin Feiyang laughed. This tea set was indeed made of Qinghai nephrite, because when he was a child, he also used this kind of tea set in the imperial palace, so it was not difficult to distinguish. Dong! At this moment, there was a knock on the door. "Come in." Guofeng looked at the door and said. The waiter pushed the door and entered, followed by more than a dozen staff members, each of whom was holding a plate of delicious dishes in their hands. "Please enjoy, young masters." After putting the dishes on the table one by one, the waiter led the staff members out of the elegant room and closed the door. "Brother Qin, please." Guofeng got up and stretched out his hand with a smile. "Please." Qin Feiyang also got up and made a gesture of invitation. Then the two of them walked to the table together. After sitting down, Guofeng picked up the wine pot and said, "Let's make it clear first. Today we are going to get drunk, so we can't use battle qi to dissolve the alcohol." "Of course," Qin Feiyang said without hesitation with a smile. At their level, no matter how strong the wine was, it couldn't make them drunk. Because as long as they activated their battle qi, they could instantly evaporate all the alcohol. And Guofeng said so because he wanted to get Qin Feiyang drunk, and then find an opportunity to make a move. Qin Feiyang's answer was also to reassure Guofeng. But in fact, the two of them were secretly activating their battle qi to dissolve the alcohol and stay sober. The two of them drank while talking and laughing. They didn't mention the previous grudges again. If people who didn't know saw this scene, they would really think that the two of them were old friends for many years. In less than an hour, the two of them finished 2 pots of dragon's wine and ordered 2 more pots. Gradually, Qin Feiyang began to show signs of drunkenness, and his words became more and more unscrupulous. "Brother Gua, I'll be honest with you. I used to hate you very much." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, "Why?" Guofeng looked at him in confusion. His eyes were also hazy with drunkenness. "Because you are the king of the third peak. You are arrogant and condescending. However, after getting along with you now, I realize that you are quite a nice person," Qin Feiyang said. Guofeng laughed and whispered into Qin Feiyang's ear, "Brother, to be honest, I used to hate you too." Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "Is it because I threatened you?" "That's right." Guofeng slammed the table hard, stood up and said angrily, "Look at you. You are just a small fry. How dare you threaten me, a king? Aren't you courting death? How can I endure this?" Sorry, I was wrong." Qin Feiyang also stood up shakily, reached out and hooked his arm around Guofeng's neck, and apologized repeatedly. I didn't really blame you. Why are you apologizing?" You have to remember that we are friends now, brothers. Let's forget about those unhappy things in the past. In the future, we will love and protect each other, and make a name for ourselves in the forgotten continent. Guofeng roared heroically. Yes, make a name for ourselves. Come, let's not go home until we are drunk. Qin Feiyang was also full of pride. All right, let's not go home until we are drunk. The two of them directly picked up the wine jug, clinked it hard, and began to gulp it down. After drinking, Qin Feiyang sat down on the chair and waved his hand. Brother, I can't take it anymore. You can't take it anymore? Are you still a man? Let me tell you, the two of us have to be carried back today. Waiter, give me 2 more jugs of dragon's wine. Guofeng walked to the door, opened it and shouted outside. All right, coming right up. The waiter below shouted. Next. Guofeng staggered back to the table, patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and said, Brother, hurry up and pull yourself together, we still have to continue. I really can't take it anymore. Qin Feiyang collapsed on the chair, waving his hands, his entire body reeking of alcohol. A man can't say no, a woman can't say no, understand? Hurry up and wash up, wake up, we'll continue drinking later. Guofeng forcefully pulled Qin Feiyang up, and then pushed Qin Feiyang towards the bedroom. Because in the bedroom there was a separate washroom. Qin Feiyang said helplessly, I really have to hand it to you, your alcohol tolerance is so good. All right, I'll go wash up, you have to wait for me, you're not allowed to drink secretly. Who do you think I am? You're still drinking secretly. Hurry up and stop talking nonsense. Guofeng waved his hand impatiently. I treat you as a brother, haha. With a loud laugh, Qin Feiyang staggered towards the bedroom. The washroom was on the left side of the bedroom, but he walked towards the right. Brother, the washroom is on the left. You can't even find the direction, can you do it? Seeing this, Guofeng hurriedly said. Left. Qin Feiyang was stunned, looked at the wall on the left, turned his head to look at the right and suddenly said, yes, right, no, it's left. Let me tell you, don't look down on me, even if there are 10 more jars, can drink it. Qin Feiyang turned around, pointed at Guofeng, shook his head and said, and then walked towards the washroom. All right, you're good. Guofeng nodded and smiled helplessly. Clang. Qin Feiyang finally entered the washroom and closed the door with force. Walala then. A burst of water came out from the washroom. Young Master Gua, this is the wine you want. The waiter walked into the private room with 2 jugs of wine. Put on the table. Guofeng pointed at the table, completely drunk, unexpectedly drunk like this. After the waiter put down the jug, he looked at the drunk Guofeng, shook his head, turned around and walked out and closed the door. Just as the door closed, Guofeng's drunkenness disappeared in an instant, and his eyes flashed with a shocking cold light. He walked to the bedroom, looked at the washroom door, and quickly returned to the table, taking out a jade bottle from his arms. The jade bottle was only the size of a thumb, and it was half filled with a small bottle of transparent liquid. This was the venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion. Don't blame me for being cruel, you asked for it. Guofeng smiled coldly, pulled out the cork, and poured only 1 drop into Qin Feiyang's wine cup. The venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion was the complete opposite of the venom of the bloodthirsty spider. It was colorless and tasteless, and even if it was not mixed with wine, it was difficult to detect. Just this 1 drop was enough to take Qin Feiyang's life. Then Guofeng put away the jade bottle, returned to the chair, and pretended to be drunk. At the same time, in the washroom, Qin Feiyang's previous drunkenness had also disappeared. At this moment, he held the image crystal in his hand. Soon, young Master Hao's shadow showed up. But Qin Feiyang did not say anything, and only nodded to young Master Hao. Young Master Hao also nodded in response, and the shadow dissipated. Then, Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal and stood in front of the sink, his eyes flashing with cold light. Although he did not see Guofeng poisoning with his own eyes, he could imagine that Guofeng asked him to come to the washroom to wash up to create an opportunity to poison. It's not that easy to kill me. Qin Feiyang sneered, held the water, washed his face, and returned to the table in a drunken state. Guofeng glanced at Qin Feiyang and laughed. Look at you now, if others see you, they will definitely laugh at you. Aren't you the same? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Yes. Come, let's continue. Guofeng picked up the wine pot and filled the wine cup in front of Qin Feiyang. Humph, come on, I'm not afraid of you. Qin Feiyong raised his wine cup and snorted. But in his heart, he was thinking, did Guofeng put the bloodthirsty scorpion's venom in the wine cup or the wine pot? Soon, he had the answer in his heart. Guofeng also poured a cup for himself, and after pouring it, he drank it without hesitation. Obviously, if Guofeng really did poison, it must be in the wine cup in his hand. What are you waiting for? Drink it. Don't tell me you can't drink it. If you really can't drink it, don't force yourself, I won't laugh at you. Seeing Qin Feiyong holding the wine cup but not drinking, Guofeng could not help but make fun of him, but he was actually very nervous. He had done so much for this moment. If Qin Feiyong did not drink at this time, then all his previous efforts would be wasted. But he did not dare to show too much urgency. Can't drink it? How dare you look down on me? Let me tell you, although I don't usually drink, I can still drink. Today I must make you drunk. Qin Feiyong snorted coldly, holding the wine cup and putting it to his mouth. At this moment, Guofeng's eyes were firmly fixed on Qin Feiyong, and his hands could not help but clench. As long as Qin Feiyong drank this cup of wine, then the humiliation he had suffered before could be doubled back. However, when Qin Feiyong was about to drink at this moment, there was a knock on the door. Is he here? Qin Feiyong muttered secretly, but pretended to be puzzled, put down the wine cup, and looked at the door suspiciously. Damn it! Just one more step. Which bastard came to ruin my good thing at this time? Guofeng was about to go crazy, and he was even about to vomit blood, but he had to endure. He also looked at the door, and with a sullen tone he shouted, Who is it? Can you not ruin our good mood? The door opened. A white-clothed young man with his hands behind his back entered uninvited with a faint smile on his face. Young Master Hao. Guofeng's gaze trembled. Why would young Master Hao come? At the same time, Qin Feiyong secretly sent a sound transmission and laughed. Luckily you came in time, otherwise I would have had to drink this cup of wine. Young Master Hao glanced at the wine cup in front of Qin Feiyong, then looked at Guofeng and Qin Feiyong and laughed. Just now when I entered the Dragon Phoenix house, I heard from the waiter that the two of you were drinking here, and that you were already drunk, so I came to take a look out of curiosity. You won't blame me, right? No. It's our honor for young Master Hao to come, isn't it, Brother Guo? Qin Feiyong immediately stood up and laughed. Yes. Guofeng nodded his head, but in his heart, he was cursing the waiter's 18 generations of ancestors. Why was he so talkative? Actually, the waiter was also very wronged, because this matter had nothing to do with the waiter at all, and he also did not tell young Master Hao that Guofeng and Qin Feiyong were drinking here. And young Master Hao said so just to find an excuse to not arouse Guofeng's suspicion. Young Master Hao laughed. Looking at the smell of alcohol all over your body, you really drank a lot. How about it, won't you invite me to drink a few cups? Guofeng was about to say that it was not convenient, but Qin Feiyong beat him to it. Of course, quickly, please sit. Like this, Guofeng could not say anything more. Young Master Hao closed the door behind him, walked to the table, and sat between Qin Feiyong and Guofeng. Then young Master Hao looked at Guofeng and said with a frown, Why aren't you moving? Do you not welcome me? Guofeng shuddered and quickly took a clean wine cup, placed it in front of young Master Hao, and filled it to the brim. At this moment he was very flustered. Ever since Qin Feiyong gave the opportunity to meet Dragon Phoenix House's young miss to young Master Hao last time, young Master Hao had a good impression of this ancestor Mu. If now he poisoned Qin Feiyong to death in front of young Master Hao, it would definitely arouse young Master Hao's dissatisfaction. Young Master Hao might even report this matter to Chief Pagoda Master. At that time he would be charged with the crime of poisoning a fellow disciple. And once Chief Pagoda Master investigated, he might not even be able to save his life. But the poison had already been used, and it was too late to take it back. What should he do? Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he looked at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, Younger brother Mu, you see, this place has been messed up by us. It's really a bit inappropriate to use it to entertain young Master Hao. How about we change rooms? As long as they changed rooms immediately, Qin Feiyong would not drink this cup of wine. Although this also meant that his plan to poison Qin Feiyong to death had failed, there was still plenty of time in the future. Qin Feiyong looked at young Master Hao and asked for young Master Hao's opinion. Young Master Hao waved his hand and said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. I'm not particular about it. Just do as you like." This? Guofeng's face stiffened. Qin Feiyang picked up the wine cup and said with a smile, then as young Master Hao said, "Come, let's drink this cup." "Okay." Young Master Hao nodded and clinked the wine cup with Qin Feiyang's. "Wait." Guofeng hurriedly stretched out his hand. "What's wrong?" Both of them looked at him in confusion. Guofeng's eyes kept rolling. Now he was in a bit of a dilemma. Suddenly, he grabbed a new wine cup, handed it to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Younger brother Mu, your wine cup looks a bit dirty. Use this clean one." "Dirty?" Qin Feiyang glanced at the wine cup suspiciously, then looked up at Guofeng and said, "It's okay, brother Gua, what's wrong with you? Why have you become strange since young Master Hao came in?" Of course, he knew what Guofeng was hesitating about. He said that on purpose in order to see Guofeng make a fool of himself. Needless to say, seeing Guofeng like this, he was quite happy in his heart. "Is there?" Guofeng laughed embarrassedly. Bang! Young Master Hao slammed the wine cup on the table. The wine cup didn't break but some wine spilled out. But whether young Master Hao did it on purpose or not, he just happened to touch the chopsticks next to him, and the chopsticks immediately flew out and fell to the ground. Then, young Master Hao glared at Guofeng and said, "What do you mean? If you don't welcome me, just say it." No. Guofeng hurriedly waved his hand. "Really?" Young Master Hao raised his eyebrows. "Really?" Guofeng shook his head. Young Master Hao snorted coldly. "I don't think you have the guts. Go and pick up the chopsticks." Okay. Guofeng nodded and quickly turned around and ran over. Just as Guofeng turned around, Qin Feiyang and young Master Hao quickly exchanged wine cups. In other words, now the poisoned wine cup was in young Master Hao's hands. Chapter 941. At the same time, Guofeng, who went to pick up the chopsticks, had a trace of madness in his eyes. Because he knew that there was no way out now. He couldn't care so much. Get rid of Qin Feiyang first. If he really caused young Master Hao's dissatisfaction, he would slowly find a way to persuade him. After all, Qin Feiyang would be a dead man by then. Maybe young Master Hao would be merciful and let him go. Thinking of this, he bent down to pick up the chopsticks, returned to the table, and handed the chopsticks to young Master Hao. Young Master Hao raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "Are you sleepwalking? It's dirty on the ground. How can I use it?" Yes. Guofeng suddenly patted his head, quickly took a pair of clean chopsticks, and respectfully handed it up. Young Master Hao nodded in satisfaction, then raised his glass and said with a smile, "Come on, let me toast you too." After that, without the slightest hesitation, he drank the cup of poisoned wine. Qin Feiyang shot a glance at Guofeng. Then, he also raised his wine cup and drained it in one gulp. Guofeng also drank. At the same time he also smiled. He knew the poison of the bloodthirsty scorpion better than anyone else. Now, even if a god descended to the mortal world, Qin Feiyang would not be able to escape death. He put down the glass and let out a long breath. Although there were some twists and turns in the process, his goal had been achieved. Then Guofeng leaned on the chair and looked at Qin Feiyang coldly, waiting for Qin Feiyang to die of the poison. However, Qin Feiyang also laughed. He slowly put down the glass and took out the jade bottle containing the blood soul spider's poison. Guofeng's pupils shrank, staring at the jade bottle. It was also at this time. Young Master Hao suddenly screamed in pain. "What's going on?" Guofeng immediately looked at young Master Hao, his eyes full of surprise. Young Master Hao was holding his chest at this moment. His face quickly turned pale, and his lips turned purple. This was obviously a sign of poisoning. But wasn't the poisonous wine drunk by Qin Feiyang? How could young Master Hao be poisoned? Whoosh! Guofeng suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang, only to see Qin Feiyang sitting there without any signs of being poisoned. How could this be? He was dumbfounded. Those who drank the poison wine were completely fine. Those who didn't drink the poison wine were poisoned instead. He couldn't figure out what was going on. "I can only tell you that you're finished." Qin Feiyang grinned and quickly pulled out the cork. He stood up and poured out a drop of blood soul spider's venom for young Master Hao. Hearing Qin Feiyong's words, Guofeng was slightly taken aback. Then when he saw Qin Feiyong feed young Master Hao the poison in the jade bottle, a name suddenly appeared in his mind. Could that be? His face was instantly filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyong slowly put away the jade bottle and said with a smile, "Yes, this is the venom of the blood soul spider." "This is impossible." Guofeng shook his head. Only he and Guiyun knew the plan to poison Qin Feiyong. Guiyun would never leak the secret. How did Qin Feiyong know? And he prepared the venom of the blood soul spider in advance. Was it a coincidence? After taking the venom of the blood soul spider, young Master Hao looked even more uncomfortable. The two poisons collided crazily in his body, making him feel worse than death. His face had been distorted. But in less than 10 breaths, the pain on his face slowly dissipated, and his pale face and purple lips were also gradually returning to normal. Seeing this, Qin Feiyong also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he was fully confident that the venom of the blood soul spider could detoxify the poison of the bloodthirsty scorpion, he still couldn't help but feel nervous, because he was afraid that something would happen. After all, young Master Hao's identity was too terrifying. If anything happened, even if he had 10 lives, it wouldn't be enough to kill him. Then, Qin Feiyong returned to his seat and looked at Guofeng jokingly. "You don't think this is a coincidence, do you?" Guofeng's face darkened. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, "I admit that your performance today was very good. There was no flaw at all, but you found the wrong target." Guofeng growled, "Since there was no flaw, how did you know?" "Because when you and Guiyun were plotting by the lake, I was hiding nearby, so I heard every word you said to Guiyun." Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "What?" Guofeng's eyes trembled. It turned out that this person had known early on. Then it was obvious that all the previous actions of this person were purely acting. "You think you are very smart. You think that everything is under your control. But in fact, from the beginning, your ending has been doomed." Qin Feiyong shook his head and said. Guofeng said in a deep voice, "What about young Master Hao? Did you find him on purpose as well?" "That's right. 3 days ago, I told young Master Hao everything." Qin Feiyong nodded. "Why? You already know my plan. It can be said that it's easy to deal with me. But why do you still want to involve young Master Hao?" Guofeng roared. "It's very simple. The people I want to deal with are not just you, but also the rest of your scorpion tribe, including Guiyun," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Hearing these words, Guofeng couldn't help but tremble. It turned out that this was the real purpose of this person. If young Master Hao was not involved, then even if the matter was exposed, the only one who would be punished in the end would be him, and Guiyun and the others would not be implicated. But now, young Master Hao was poisoned, which was equivalent to him being charged with murdering the son of the chief pagoda master. This was not a small matter. Because young Master Hao was the only son of the chief pagoda master, even the chief pagoda master himself was reluctant to scold him. One could imagine what kind of consequences he would face once the chief pagoda master knew that he murdered young Master Hao. "I'm afraid that no one in his scorpion tribe would survive. You are really vicious." Guofeng stared at Qin Feiyong with resentment. "Vicious?" Qin Feiyong was stunned, shook his head and said with a smile, "It seems that compared to you, I am still far behind." Guofeng's face was as calm as water, his hands clenched tightly, making a cracking sound. If looks could kill, then Qin Feiyong would have already been dismembered into 10,000 pieces. Suddenly, Guofeng looked at young Master Hao and said, "I don't understand, why are you helping him?" The poison in young Master Hao's body had been completely neutralized. Facing Guofeng's question, he only smiled faintly and did not give any explanation. "Answer me, why is that? What benefits did he give you?" Guofeng roared in exasperation. Young Master Hao raised his eyebrows and said, "This is my business, you can't interfere." "Yes, you are the son of the chief pagoda master, high and mighty, and I am just a remnant of the scorpion tribe. Of course I can't interfere with your business. But don't push me too far." Guofeng roared. "You asked for it. If you had been more honest and not schemed against Brother Mu, would this have happened?" Young Master Hao said indifferently. "Honest? Are you joking?" Although my scorpion tribe has been destroyed, I am still the king of the third peak. And him? He is just a piece of trash from the 9 great regions. What right does he have to threaten me? So, I have to make him pay the price. Guofeng pointed at Qin Feiyong angrily, his eyes flashing with shocking killing intent. Trash? Young Master Hao shook his head and laughed. Guofeng was indeed the king of the third peak, but Qin Feiyong could refine the Juku yellow dragon pill. It was obvious who was more valuable between the two. So in young Master Hao's opinion, Guofeng was simply talking about himself when he said the word trash. At the same time, Qin Feiyong looked at Guofeng contemptuously, turned to look at young Master Hao and said with a smile, "Brother Hao, don't talk nonsense with him. Send a message to your father and let him settle this matter." Okay. Young Master Hao nodded and immediately took out the image crystal. No. Guofeng's eyes trembled and he quickly knelt in front of young Master Hao and begged, "Young Master, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this time. I swear, I will be honest in the future." But young Master Hao turned a deaf ear to him, and his battle chi surged toward the image crystal. Seeing this, Guofeng's eyes suddenly flashed with a ruthless light. "If you don't let me live well, I won't let you live well either. Go to hell." Boom! He suddenly stood up and threw a punch at young Master Hao. "You're courting death." Young Master Hao's eyes were also full of killing intent. Boom! At the same time, a terrifying holy aura burst out in the room, instantly imprisoning Guofeng. Guofeng looked at Qin Feiyong in shock and anger. Because the owner of this saint aura was Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong laughed and said, "You didn't expect it, right? I have already broken through to the battle saint realm." So fast? Guofeng was extremely shocked and also despaired. Although he was a 9-star war master and was only a small realm away from Qin Feiyong, he had not opened the gate of potential and was simply unable to break through the shackles of Qin Feiyong's pressure. At the same time, Qin Feiyong's saint aura also alarmed everyone in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Bang! Almost in the next moment, the door was forcefully pushed open. A slightly plump middle-aged man barged into the room. It was the steward of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Pang Su. But when he saw that it was Qin Feiyong, young Master Hao, and Guofeng in the room, his expression froze. "Greetings, young Master Hao." "Greetings, young Master Mu." Coming back to his senses, Pang Su hurriedly bowed and saluted. Then, he looked at Guofeng, who was imprisoned in the air, and asked suspiciously, "Young masters, what's going on?" Wang. It was also at this moment that the image crystal in young Master Hao's hand shone brightly. An illusory figure appeared. It was a middle-aged man about 30 or 40 years old. His body was thin, and he had a head of long snow-white hair. He was also wearing a white robe that was spotless. At this moment, he was sitting in a pavilion in a courtyard, drinking tea alone. Each of his actions was emitting a scholarly aura. That's right. This was young Master Hao's father, the Pill Tower's chief pagoda master who controlled the Forgotten Continent. Seeing the chief pagoda master's shadow appear, Guofeng's face immediately turned as pale as paper. Pang Su's gaze also trembled slightly as he hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, Chief Pagoda Master." An uneasy premonition arose in his heart. Chapter 942. At the same time, Qin Feiyong also lowered his head and bowed to the Chief Pagoda Master's shadow. So many people? Looking at Qin Feiyong and the others, the Chief Pagoda Master was also quite surprised. No need to be so polite. Then the Chief Pagoda Master smiled at everyone, appearing amiable. Next, he looked at young Master Hao and asked, "Hao, is there something you need from your father? Aren't you talking nonsense? Why would I look for you if there's nothing?" Young Master Hao rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyong's expression suddenly became strange. Was this how young Master Hao usually spoke to the Chief Pagoda Master? The Chief Pagoda Master was also a little embarrassed and said, "What is it? Speak." Young Master Hao said, "Guofeng poisoned me before, and he used the venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion." Crack! The teacup in the Chief Pagoda Master's hand instantly shattered. Poisoned young Master Hao? Pang Su was also shocked. Such a big thing actually happened? What's going on? After a moment of silence, the Chief Pagoda Master asked. Young Master Hao waved his hand impatiently and said, "It's a long story. come here and I'll tell you slowly. The chief pagoda master's shadow immediately dissipated. Boom! In less than 3 breaths, a terrifying aura descended above the Dragon Phoenix house. It was a purple-clothed youth with a jade-like appearance, a tall and straight figure, and an unfathomable aura. Shwa! Next, with another flash, he entered the hall of the Dragon Phoenix house. In an instant, the Dragon Phoenix house fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at the purple-clothed youth with fear in their eyes. The purple-clothed youth glanced at the hall and said in a deep voice, "Little junior brother, where are you?" "Here." Young Master Hao replied. "Little junior brother?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. Whoosh! When the purple-clothed youth heard young Master Hao's voice, he jumped up and landed directly at the door. "So it's him." Qin Feiyang turned his head and saw that the person who came was Gong Sun Bei. But Gong Sun Bei actually called young Master Hao junior brother. Could it be that he was also a disciple of the chief pagoda master? "Greetings, Lord Gong Sun Bei." Pang Su hurriedly went up. However, Gong Sun Bei ignored him and entered the room. He closed the door and walked to young Master Hao's side. Young Master Hao looked at Gong Sun Bei and frowned. "Where's my father?" Gong Sun Bei said, "Sir is drinking tea. However, there is no need for Sir to come personally for such a small matter." "I almost died and you call that a small matter? It seems that my son is not as important as a cup of tea in his eyes." Young Master Hao snorted coldly. Gong Sun Bei beamed a bitter smile. He glanced at Guofeng and frowned. "What happened?" Young Master Hao said coldly, "I just wanted to drink a cup of wine, but I didn't expect Guofeng to put poison in the wine cup." Gong Sun Bei's eyes turned cold as he shouted, "Who gave you the guts to plot against young Master Hao?" Guofeng's body trembled. Suddenly, his eyes flashed and he hurriedly waved his hand and said, "No, no, no. Sir, it wasn't me who poisoned them." Gong Sun Bei was stunned. Young Master Hao and Qin Feiyang also frowned. But soon Qin Feiyang thought of what Guofeng wanted to do and said, "He is trying to quibble now." "Quibble?" Young Master Hao was suspicious. "If I'm not wrong, he will definitely frame me or drag me down with him. After all, there was no one else present at that time. He can say whatever he wants." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Young Master Hao asked secretly, "Then what should we do?" "I have a way." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly with a hint of ridicule in his eyes. This time, Gong Sun Bei looked at Guofeng and frowned. "If it wasn't you, then who was it?" Guofeng pointed at Qin Feiyang and said, "At that time, other than me, there was only him. So he must have poisoned young Master Hao when we weren't paying attention." "As expected," Qin Feiyang muttered, but he was not in a hurry to explain. Gong Sun Bei turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He frowned and said, "Do you have anything to say?" "This?" Qin Feiyang was doubtful and did not say anything. "It can't really be him, right?" Pang Su looked at Qin Feiyang and muttered. Gong Sun Bei said impatiently, "Don't dawdle, tell me." "Whoever poisoned him must have the venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion on him. Even if there is no venom, there must be a container to hold it. You'll know when you search." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Makes sense." Gong Sun Bei nodded and turned to walk towards Guofeng. Seeing this, Guofeng's expression suddenly became panicked. At that time he did not expect that young Master Hao would come, nor did he expect this to happen. So after poisoning him, he did not dispose of the excess venom. And now the excess venom was in his arms. Gong Sun Bei walked over and first searched Guofeng's Qingkuan bag. Obviously there was nothing. Then, he grabbed Gong Sun Bei's clothes and tore them off. Clank! A crisp sound suddenly rang out. Gong Sun Bei lowered his head and saw a thumb-sized jade bottle fall to the ground. Qin Feiyang glanced at the jade bottle, crossed his arms and looked at Guofeng. He smiled faintly and said, "I don't know how you're going to quibble now." Guofeng's face was pale. Gong Sun Bei picked up the jade bottle and pulled out the cork. After carefully observing for a moment, killing intent surged in his eyes. "This is indeed the venom of the bloodthirsty scorpion. How do you explain now?" He looked at Guofeng coldly. Guofeng stammered, terrified to the extreme. Gong Sun Bei shouted, "Tell me, why did you murder young Master Hao? Is there anyone else involved?" "Yes." Guofeng's eyes flashed and he nodded fiercely. "Who?" Gong Sunbei asked. It's him, Ancestor Mu. It's him who bewitched me to poison young Master Hao. Lord, I'm at most an accomplice. Please show mercy. Guofeng begged. Still quibbling. Gong Sunbei shook his head and sighed. When you said that it was Ancestor Mu who poisoned you, I didn't believe it at all. Do you know why? Why? Guofeng looked at him suspiciously. Beside him, Pang Su also looked at Gong Sunbei in confusion. Because Ancestor Mu is about to become the Chief Pagoda Master's personal disciple. So, as long as he's not a fool, he would know that even if he really wanted to murder young Master Hao, he wouldn't do it now. Gong Sunbei said. What? Become the Chief Pagoda Master's personal disciple? What's going on? Why isn't there any news at all? Guofeng and Pang Su were both shocked. Gong Sunbei said, I'll give you one last chance. Why did you murder young Master Hao? You're really long-winded. Young Master Hao raised his eyebrows imperceptibly and transmitted. Brother Mu, you have to silence him immediately. Why? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Although Guofeng did murder you first, if Guofeng tells the truth, I'll definitely be scolded by my father. And your plan will also fail. Young Master Hao said. His words woke Gong Sunbei up. Qin Feiyang had almost forgotten this point. As young Master Hao said, if Guofeng told the truth, Gong Sunbei would only kill Guofeng at most. He made a prompt decision. He took a step forward and slapped Guofeng's head before Gong Sunbei could react. Ah! Crack! With a scream, Guofeng's head exploded and he fell to the ground dead. Gong Sunbei was stunned. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, What are you doing? I haven't asked clearly yet. What if there's someone behind him? If you kill him now, won't the clues be lost? Qin Feiyang coughed and pointed at young Master Hao. Young Master secretly asked me to kill him. He thinks you're too long-winded. Gong Sunbei was stunned. Young Master Hao also glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. How could he just throw this mess to him? How despicable. But there was nothing he could do now. He could only brace himself and accept this mess. He looked at Gong Sunbei and snorted coldly. Yes, I asked him to kill Guofeng. The evidence is conclusive and you're still asking questions. I've never seen such a dawdling person like you. Gong Sunbei smiled bitterly. This is not dawdling. This is taking responsibility. But what was done. What else could he do? He could only forget about it. Alright, this matter is over. You should go back early. Don't fool around outside all day. Gong Sunbei said helplessly and took out a teleportation gate. Over? Young Master Hao frowned. Gong Sunbei was stunned and asked, Isn't Guofeng already dead? Young Master Hao said, Guofeng is dead, but the other people of the Scorpion tribe are still alive. I want you to eliminate them all. Eliminate them all. Gong Sunbei looked at him in surprise. Yes. For those who want to poison me, I will make them pay a heavy price. Young Master Hao said, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Gong Sunbei fell silent. I agree with young Master's approach because by doing so we can make an example out of them. Qin Feiyang said. Gong Sunbei looked at Qin Feiyang, then at young Master Hao and nodded. Alright, I'll make the arrangements now. Finished. He opened the teleportation gate and turned to leave. After the teleportation gate dissipated, Qin Feiyang and young Master Hao looked at each other with a hint of a smile in their eyes. Young Master Hao sent a sound transmission. Brother Mu, I've already helped you get rid of them. Isn't it time for you to fulfill your promise? Qin Feiyang was about to speak, but at this moment, Pang Su suddenly looked at young Master Hao and bowed. Young Master, I'm really sorry. Young Master Hao was startled and asked in confusion, It's not like it's your Dragon Phoenix restaurant's poison. Why are you apologizing to me? Although it's not my Dragon Phoenix restaurant's poison, it still happened in my Dragon Phoenix restaurant. So I thought that I would give the two young masters 2 jars of Dragon Phoenix wine for free as an apology. At the same time, it can also be considered as an advance congratulations to young Master Mu for becoming the direct disciple of the Chief Pagoda Master. Pang Su said. Dragon Phoenix wine. Still 2 jars. Young Master Hao's eyes lit up and he laughed. Then I won't be polite. As long as the 2 young masters don't mind. After Pang Su finished speaking with a smile, he hurriedly turned around and left. Steward Pang, what happened? Just now we vaguely heard that Guofeng poisoned young Master Hao. Is this true? The moment Pang Su went out, the people gathered in the restaurant started to ask questions. But Pang Su did not say anything and walked straight to the wine cellar. Now, appeasing young Master Hao was the most important thing. Inside the pavilion, Qin Feiyong walked into the tea room and slowly brewed tea. Seeing this, young Master Hao frowned and also followed into the tea room, saying impatiently, "Brother Mu, hurry up and help me break through to the War Saint realm. What's the rush? Come to the alchemy room tomorrow to find me. I promise to help you break through in one go." Qin Feiyong laughed. Actually, the real reason was because he had yet to refine the 9-turn dragon blood pill. And now, it was impossible for him to go to the castle to refine it. Well, anyway, I've waited for so long, one more day won't make a difference. Young Master Hao thought for a while and nodded with a smile. Then, he sat opposite Qin Feiyong and looked at the beauty of Qinghai on the tea table. This tea set, suddenly. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes. This tea set is called Beauty of Qinghai. It was made of Qinghai nephrite and was also given to me by Guofeng. Qin Feiyong laughed. Tisk tsk. In order to make you lower your guard, he even took out this treasure. He really knows how to spend a lot of money. Young Master Hao was speechless. Qin Feiyong laughed and said, "To tell you the truth, I really like people like him. You're taking advantage of me, you know?" Young Master Hao rolled his eyes at him. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and asked curiously, "Tell me, how did you and Guofeng become enemies? It's interesting to talk about it. I remember that day, Pei invited me to the Dragon Phoenix restaurant for a drink, and Guofeng happened to find me." Qin Feiyong made tea while satisfying young Master Hao's curiosity and slowly told the story. Chapter 943. Swoosh! Above the pill tower, one figure after another appeared unceasingly. They wore all kinds of clothes, men and women, basically all middle-aged appearances. Looking at their waists again, they all had a reddish gold token hanging. That's right. They were the divine envoys of the main tower. There were 10 people in the main pavilion, each one emitting an unfathomable aura. Mu Qing's grandfather, Lu Chongfeng, was also among them. Lu Chongfeng shouted, "People of the Scorpion tribe, come out immediately. What's the situation?" The disciples of the 10 pill towers were all alarmed in an instant. So many divine envoys? In the third pagoda, a person appeared first. It was precisely the king of the third pagoda, Guiyun. But when he saw that there were actually 10 divine envoys, his pupils suddenly constricted. After Guiyun, the rest of the Scorpion tribe's people also appeared continuously, gathering around Guiyun. Looking at Lu Chongfeng's 10 people, everyone's faces had unresolvable bewilderment. In less than 100 breaths, over 1,000 people gathered here. Guiyun bowed and said, "Lord Divine Envoy, may I ask why you called us out?" Boom! However, what answered him was one terrifying emperor pressure after another. The 1,000 people of the Scorpion tribe were all imprisoned in the void in an instant. Guiyun's expression changed and he hurriedly looked at Lu Chongfeng's 10 people and said, "Lords, why is this? Guofeng poisoned young Master Hao in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, committing a heinous crime. And as his clansmen, you all can hardly absolve yourselves from the blame too." Lu Chongfeng opened his mouth coldly. "What? Poisoned young Master Hao?" Everyone's expressions changed when they heard it. Guiyun's face was also full of disbelief. Didn't Guofeng go to poison Ancestor Mu? Why would he poison young Master Hao? Guiyun said anxiously, "Your Excellency, there must be a misunderstanding here. Lords, please investigate clearly." Misunderstanding? Young Master Hao almost lost his life under the bloodthirsty scorpion's poison, and there was even Ancestor Mu testifying by the side. Is this called a misunderstanding? Lu Chongfeng shouted. Ancestor Mu testifying? Guiyun was completely stunned. What on earth was going on? But no one gave him an explanation. Lu Chongfeng raised his arm. Battle chi surged on his index fingertip. A destructive aura of aura rolled out crazily. Even if Guofeng has guts as big as the heavens, he wouldn't dare to murder young Master Hao. My lord, please investigate this thoroughly. Don't kill the innocent. The people of the Scorpion tribe immediately panicked. It was obvious that these divine envoys had come to kill them. Boom! However, Lu Chongfeng turned a deaf ear to him. Battle chi surged out of his fingertip and pounced toward the thousands of people. No, I beg you, the group of people cried out in despair, but it was of no use. The battle chi instantly drowned them. Ah! Along with cries of agony, everyone died on the spot and their blood dyed the sky red, including Guiyun. When the disciples of the Pill Tower who came out later saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. Second grandfather. What's going on? Did Guofeng really poison young Master Hao? Mu Qing also came out. She looked at the blood-soaked sky and secretly sent a message to Lu Chongfeng. I don't know the details either, but I heard that it has something to do with Qin Feiyang. My guess is that this is Qin Feiyang's scheme. Lu Chongfeng thought to himself. Mu Qing was stunned. This bastard actually caused such a big commotion as soon as he came back? I still have to go to the major cities to clean up the remnants of the Scorpion tribe. When you have time, go and ask Qin Feiyang. By the way, tell him not to make any decisions on his own in the future. It's best to discuss it with us first. Lu Chongfeng said secretly and opened the teleportation gate. He walked in with the other 9 divine envoys one after another. Mu Qing's eyes flashed. Then she turned around and entered the first pagoda without looking back. Warrior Mountain Range. There were more people of the Scorpion tribe here than in the Pill Tower. At this moment, the same scene was happening. Blood was raining down from the sky and corpses kept falling. More than a dozen divine envoys were like cold-blooded gods of death, harvesting everyone's lives. The disciples of the entire main pagoda were shocked. They were also laughing at Guofeng's stupidity. He actually dared to poison young Master Hao. Wasn't he courting death? And in less than half a day, this matter spread throughout the entire Central Divine Kingdom cities and tribes. Everyone found it unbelievable. Was this Guofeng a fool? Didn't he know that young Master Hao was the only son of the main pagoda master? Poisoning him? They were simply digging their own graves. At the same time, Dragon Phoenix House. Haha, so that's how it is. After listening to Qin Feiyang's story, young Master Hao couldn't help but laugh out loud. He's really unlucky to have met a fiend like you. Fiend? Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He said helplessly, "Can you blame me for this?" He can only blame himself for wanting to have a foot in both boats. That's true. Young Master Hao nodded. He definitely couldn't tolerate this kind of person who had a honey mouth and a sword in his heart. Otherwise, who knew how many women would be ruined by his hands in the future? Buzz. This time, the image crystal in young Master Hao's arms rang. Young Master Hao took it out and Gong Sunbei's shadow immediately appeared. Gong Sunbei smiled and said, "Junior brother, as you wish. The people of the Scorpion tribe have all been eradicated." So fast? Qin Feiyang and young Master Hao looked at each other with a trace of surprise in their eyes. Then, young Master Hao looked at Gong Sunbei and asked, "What about those outside? They're still being pursued." After all, the news has already spread. The remaining survivors will definitely hide. It will take a lot of time to find them. Gong Sunbei said. "All right, do as you see fit." Young Master Hao nodded and smiled. He then turned off the image crystal and smiled at Qin Feiyang. "How is it? The efficiency of my head pagoda is not bad, right?" Qin Feiyang gave a thumbs up. From this moment on, the Scorpion tribe could be considered to have truly perished. Right. Why did Gong Sunbei call you junior brother? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Young Master Hao pursed his lips and said, "He's my father's disciple, but he has already finished his apprenticeship." Sure enough. Qin Feiyang muttered and asked again, "Do you know where the Mu family is?" Young Master Hao frowned and said, "Why are you asking about the Mu family?" "Some time ago, I accidentally heard someone mention that this Mu family is very mysterious, so I'm a little curious." Qin Feiyang calmly said with a smile. Young Master Hao nodded and then his face became serious. He whispered, "Junior brother Mu, listen to me. Don't ask about the Mu family in the future." "Why?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. Young Master Hao said in a deep voice, "This Mu family is not only mysterious, but also very terrifying." "Terrifying?" Qin Feiyong was more and more surprised. Let me tell you this. Since I was a child, my father has told me that I can be prodigal and bully others, but I must never offend the Mu family. Young Master Hao said. This? Qin Feiyong was surprised. As for where the Mu family is, I don't know. I've asked my father before, but he didn't tell me because he was afraid that I would act recklessly. Young Master Hao said again. Qin Feiyong's eyes showed a trace of disappointment, but he quickly concealed it. Young Master Hao got up and smiled. Let's not talk about the Mu family. Let's go and drink some Dragon Phoenix wine to celebrate. Yes, we need to celebrate. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. At about noon, Qin Feiyong got up and left, returning to the alchemy room number 10. As for young Master Hao, he still stayed in the Dragon Phoenix house. The purpose of staying in the Dragon Phoenix house was naturally for the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house. Dong! Not long after Qin Feiyong returned to the alchemy room, there was a knock on the door. He waved his hand and the stone door slowly opened. Mu Qing came in with a smile on his face. What are you doing here? Qin Feiyong looked at him suspiciously. Mu Qing walked into the lounge, sat on the chair and said, Guiyun poison young Master Hao, was it your plan? I don't have that ability. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Don't play dumb. Who is young Master Hao? Unless Guofeng's head was kicked by a donkey, he wouldn't poison him. Mu Qing pursed his lips. Qin Feiyong smiled. Maybe his head was really kicked by a donkey? Mu Qing rolled his eyes and said, Don't talk nonsense, let's talk business. Since young Master Hao is willing to help you get rid of the remnants of the Scorpion tribe, does that mean his relationship with you is very good? Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, Not very good, because I promised to help him step into the Battle Saint Realm. Help him step into the Battle Saint Realm? Mu Qing was stunned and asked, Can you do it? Whether I can or not, you don't need to know. Now tell me, other than your second grandpa, is there anyone else in the Holy Land? Qin Feiyong said. What? Mu Qing immediately stared at him vigilantly. Qin Feiyong said, Now that we are in a cooperative relationship, of course I need to know who is on the same side. What if I kill them by mistake when there is a conflict? Don't worry. They all know you, so they won't deliberately target you. On the contrary, at the critical moment they will secretly assist you. Mu Qing laughed. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed, and he sneered, So you really arranged for someone else to enter the Holy Land? Of course, we can't just hang on a tree like you, right? Okay. Good luck in the Holy Land. I'll wait for your good news. By the way, second grandpa asked me to tell you, don't make decisions on your own in the future, and discuss with us first. Mu Qing smiled proudly, then got up and left without looking back. Discuss? Qin Feiyong couldn't help but sneer. Although this time it was because of the Mu family that he was able to escape from the imperial capital, he really didn't have a good impression of the Mu family. Especially this Mu Qing, sometimes he really wanted to kick her. After closing the stone door, Qin Feiyong went to the castle. Everyone was concentrating on cultivation. Qin Feiyong looked at Fatso and said, Give me 2 sets of medicinal materials for the 9-turn dragon blood pill. Fatso opened his eyes and frowned. There is not much dragon blood left. Are you sure you want to help young Master Hao? Qin Feiyong said, I must do what I promised others. Not to mention that the other party is the son of the chief pagoda master. Fatso sighed. Yes. If Qin Feiyong went back on his words now, young Master Hao would definitely not let it go. At that time, as long as young Master Hao casually said a few words in front of the chief pagoda master, then Qin Feiyong's dream of becoming the chief pagoda master's disciple would probably be ruined. Suddenly, Lu Hong opened her eyes, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Right now the blood flowing in your body is purple gold dragon blood. I was thinking, could it be used to refine the 9-turn dragon blood pill? Qin Feiyong and Fatso were startled. That's right. Why didn't they think of it? Fatso immediately took out a set of 9-turn dragon blood pills medicinal ingredients and handed it to Qin Feiyong, urging, Boss, quickly try it. Although Qin Feiyong was a human, the blood in his body was indeed dragon blood. Since it was dragon blood, then it might really be able to refine the 9-turn dragon blood pill. Qin Feiyong took the medicinal ingredients, glanced at Fatso and the other two, then turned and walked towards the pill furnace, a trace of anticipation in his eyes. If it was really possible, then the problem of dragon blood would undoubtedly be solved. Fatso and Lu Hong also got up and followed behind Qin Feiyang. Arriving in front of the pill furnace, Qin Feiyang placed the medicinal ingredients one by one on the altar, then closed his eyes and calmed his heart. Phew! A moment later, he let out a long breath, and his entire body and mind seemed to have entered a state of heart as still as water. Then he opened his eyes, waved his hand, and the netherworld devil flame turned into a stream of light, suspended below the pill furnace. Then with a thought, the netherworld devil flame slowly began to recover. When the temperature in the pill furnace reached a certain level, he cut his finger, and a drop of purple gold blood immediately flowed out. The blood was suffused with a hazy purple gold divine light, and carried a pure dragon's might. Swish! At the same time, Qin Feiyang's head, a wisp of mental strength swept out, wrapped the drop of purple gold blood, and entered the pill furnace. The temperature in the pill furnace continued to rise. Under the control of Qin Feiyang's mental strength, the purple gold blood was like a colorful gem, constantly rotating. Time passed breath by breath. Suddenly, a trace of spiritual liquid flowed out from the purple gold blood. The spiritual liquid was also purple gold, looked very dazzling, and emitted a refreshing fragrance. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang did not have any emotional fluctuations, but it was not that he did not, but that he did not dare to, because once there was an emotional fluctuation the pill furnace might explode. However, Fatso and Lu Hong behind him could not hide the surprise on their faces, because the appearance of the spiritual liquid already meant that Qin Feiyang's blood could be used as medicinal ingredients. Qin Feiyang had refined the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill several times, so he was not unfamiliar with it. After refining the spiritual liquid of the purple gold dragon blood, he began to refine the spiritual liquid of the other medicinal ingredients step by step. About 200 breaths passed. Whoosh! Finally, the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill was out. Qin Feiyang grabbed it in his hand, immediately opened his hand and looked down. Fatso and Lu Hong also came closer to take a look. The size of the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pellet was about the same as the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pellets he had refined in the past. The only difference was that the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pellet was purple gold in color. Even the 6 patterns on the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pellet were emitting a bright purple gold divine light. A strong medicinal fragrance filled every corner of the ancient castle. Boss, we're rich. Fatso's eyes lit up. The other medicinal ingredients of the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill, such as the dragon saliva fruit, although very rare, were not difficult to find. He had a lot of them now. Only the dragon blood could not be bought with money. But now that the problem of dragon blood was solved, they could refine a large number of 9 Revolutions dragon blood pills in the future. If they were to auction it, who knew what kind of sky-high price it would fetch? In other words, the purple gold dragon blood in Qin Feiyang's body was an inexhaustible treasure. Can you not show your greed so obviously? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. That's right, we don't even know if it's effective now, why are you so excited? Lu Hong also looked at him with disdain. Fatso rubbed his head and chuckled. Won't we know if it's effective after we try it? As he spoke, he reached out to grab the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill. Qin Feiyang grabbed the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill and raised his eyebrows. Can you stop? Fatso laughed dryly. Fat Lord wants to personally test it. Test? Qin Feiyang sneered. How could he not know what Fatso was thinking? Seeing that he had stepped into the Battle Saint realm, he started to feel anxious, so he wanted to use the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill to step into the Battle Saint realm in one go. But Qin Feiyang firmly disagreed with this kind of thing. It was not that he was stingy, but that it was not time yet. Fatso had opened the door of potential. Even without the help of the pill, he could easily break through to the Battle Saint realm. And after stepping into the Battle Saint realm, the time needed to break through each small realm would gradually increase. For example, it took 10 years to break through from a 1-star Battle Saint to a 2-star Battle Saint, so it would take at least 13 to 14 years to break through from a 2-star Battle Saint to a 3-star Battle Saint. In short, the further one went, the longer the time needed. So, if they took the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill now, it would be a loss. Qin Feiyang's plan was to wait until everyone broke through to the 7 or 8-star Battle Saint realm before taking the 9 Revolutions dragon blood pill. Of course, Except for the double-winged snow eagle and Yin Wei, after all, they had already taken it. Being seen through by Qin Feiyang, Fatso's expression was rather awkward. He smiled flatteringly and said, "Fat Lord is just saying, don't take it seriously." Lu Hong shook her head and laughed. Then she looked at Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, "You broke through to the Battle Saint realm. The chief pagoda master already knew. But why didn't he come to find you? This kind of thing can't be rushed, let's wait." Qin Feiyang kept the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Pill and took out the Soul Refining Technique Jade Slip. Then, he sat cross-legged on the ground and began to comprehend it again. His stubborn temper rose. Chapter 944. Time flew by. Early the next morning, young Master Hao came to the first tower and stood outside Qin Feiyang's alchemy room, knocking on the door. Sigh. Inside the alchemy room. Hearing the knock on the door, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He slowly opened his eyes with a trace of disappointment in them. After a night of meditation, he still didn't gain anything. Why is it so difficult to comprehend a rankless battle art? What kind of joke is this? He muttered and put away the Soul Refining Technique Jade Scroll. With a wave of his hand, the stone door quickly opened. "Good morning." Young Master Hao waved his hand and smiled. "Good morning." Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and said, "Please come in." Young Master Hao entered the alchemy room, closed the stone door and asked, "Can we start now?" He looked a little impatient. "Of course." Qin Feiyang smiled. Suddenly, his eyes flashed and he asked calmly, "I wonder if Brother Hao has heard of the Soul Refining Technique?" Soul Refining Technique? Young Master Hao was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes, but it is said that this Soul Refining Technique is only a rankless battle art, and doesn't have much value. So, Elder Wang really didn't lie to me?" Qin Feiyang muttered. "Forget it. Don't think about it. Let's talk about it later." He took out the 9-turn dragon blood pill, walked in front of young Master Hao, and handed it over. "What pill?" Young Master Hao looked at the 9-turn dragon blood pill and asked suspiciously. Qin Feiyang laughed. "A pill that can help you break through to the War Saint realm? Heard of it?" Young Master Hao's eyes lit up. He grabbed the 9-turn dragon blood pill and stuffed it into his mouth. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang grabbed his wrist and frowned. "Aren't you worried that this is a poisonous pill?" Young Master Hao was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and laughed. "If you wanted to harm me, you would have done it yesterday at the Dragon Phoenix house. Why wait until now?" Qin Fei shook his head and smiled, at the same time letting go. Young Master Hao directly put the 9-turn dragon blood pill into his mouth. The moment the pill entered his mouth, it turned into a majestic energy, like a tide, crazily surged into his limbs and bones. What pure energy! Moreover, it also carries a strong divine dragon qi. Could it be that this elixir was refined using the flesh and blood of a divine dragon? Young Master Hao was surprised. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't ask anything. Focus on breaking through." In fact, he was also quite nervous. He was afraid that the purple gold dragon blood would not work. However, his worries were completely unnecessary. Boom! In less than 10 breaths, young Master Hao's aura soared uncontrollably. "Isn't this too fast?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. Could it be that the effect of the 9 Revolution Dragon Blood Pill refined with the purple gold dragon blood was better than before? Rumble! All of a sudden, inside young Master Hao's body, a muffled explosion was heard. His aura was like a rainbow as he broke through the shackles of the 9-star Battle Master and stepped into the 1-star Battle Saint realm. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This effect was indeed better than the 9 Revolutions Dragon Blood Pill that he had refined in the past. It really worked. At the same time, young Master Hao was also dumbstruck. He couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. He felt as if he was dreaming. He had been trapped in the 9-star battle sect for several years, but he didn't expect that he would be able to easily resolve it with just a single pill. "Who?" Qin Fei let out a long breath, cupped his hands and smiled. "Brother Hao, congratulations." Young Master Hao finally came back to his senses. Feeling the surging power in his body, as well as the powerful holy might, he was immediately overjoyed. "I still have to thank Brother Mu for this." Otherwise, I don't know how long it would take for me to get what I want. So no matter what, Brother Mu, please accept my bow. Young Master Hao bowed and said. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. We are all friends, Brother Hao, you don't have to be so polite. Friend. On the other hand, young Master Hao fell silent. There was an indescribable emotion in his heart. A moment later, he seemed to have made some sort of decision. He retracted all of his aura and laughed loudly. All right, from today onwards, you are my friend, no my brother. In other words, it was only at this moment that young Master Hao could be considered to have truly accepted Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong was also rather surprised. He didn't expect young Master Hao to say such words. He laughed half-jokingly. With a brother like you, wouldn't I be able to do whatever I want in the main tower in the future? Of course. Young Master Hao smiled proudly. Looking at the sincere young Master Hao, Qin Feiyong couldn't help but feel hesitant. Because from the beginning to the end, he had been using young Master Hao. He had never thought of becoming a true friend with young Master Hao. But now, young Master Hao treated him as a brother and treated him with sincerity. He really didn't know how to face it. However, young Master Hao didn't know about this. Nor did he notice Qin Feiyong's abnormality. He smiled and said, This time I came here for another matter. What? Qin Feiyong asked. Young Master Hao said, Father wants to see you. Qin Feiyong's heart skipped a beat. That is to say, you will soon become my father's disciple, and before that, you may get a good fortune. Young Master Hao said. A good fortune? Qin Feiyong was doubtful. Let's keep you guessing first. Young Master Hao smiled mysteriously and then said, Go and pack up. Come with me immediately. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and turned to enter the lounge. He washed up a little and changed into a new set of clothes. But just as he was about to leave the lounge, he suddenly lowered his head and fell silent. Brother Mu, what are you doing? Can you hurry up? Outside. Young Master Hao urged impatiently when Qin Feiyong didn't come out for a long time. Coming. Qin Feiyong hurriedly responded. Alas. Then he sighed in a low voice, adjusted his mood, and walked out of the lounge. He looked at young Master Hao and said with a smile, Let's go. His smile was sincere. And when he showed such a smile, it meant that he also recognized young Master Hao as a friend. Yes, he didn't want to use young Master Hao anymore. And he didn't want to let down young Master Hao's friendship. Otherwise, his conscience would feel uneasy. Of course, he wouldn't give up snatching the 5-colored crystal because of this. Because the 5-colored crystal was related to the safety of Yin Wei's entire tribe. After all, Yin Wei's tribesmen were now in the hands of the mysterious lady. And the mysterious lady was also a person who would do what she said. If he dared to change his mind at this time, then none of Yin Wei's tribesmen would survive. One had to know. That was millions of people. So there were some things that he had no choice. As for the future, what his relationship with young Master Hao would become, it could only depend on fate. Buzz. Young Master Hao opened a portal and the two walked in one after another. In the deepest part of the main tower, there were endless mountains and rivers, with overlapping peaks and verdant grass and trees. Below the mountain stream, there were many courtyards of various sizes. Every courtyard was independent, and it was extremely quiet and secluded. Whoosh! In front of one of the courtyards, Qin Feiyong and young Master Hao appeared out of thin air. The courtyard was located in front of a lake. At this time the sun had just risen, the morning sun spread over the earth, and everything was revived. The clear lake was also covered with layers of dazzling waves. And in the courtyard there was a 2-story pavilion, with an antique style, full of an elegant and quiet atmosphere. In front of the door of the pavilion, there was a flower bed, with hundreds of flowers in full bloom, attracting bees and butterflies. The strong fragrance of the flowers could be smelled from far away. And a winding path, winding through the flower bed, led to the pavilion and a pavilion. This time, the main tower master was standing in the pavilion, with his eyes slightly narrowed, as if he was closing his eyes to rest. And in front of him, there was a stone table with a piece of snow-white paper on it. Next to the paper there was a brush, an inkstone and ink neatly placed. Seeing the appearance of the head pagoda master, young Master Hao rolled his eyes. Then he said to Qin Feiyong, My family's old man likes to play with words. Brother Mu, please don't take offense. Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Brother Hao, don't look down on playing with words and ink. Why? Young Master Hao was puzzled. Qin Feiyong said, playing with words and ink can cultivate one's temperament and stabilize one's state of mind. It is of great help to one's cultivation. Ugh! Young Master Hao was stunned and said with a wry smile. My old man said the same thing and even told me to try, but I'm really not interested. Everyone has their own ambitions. Qin Feiyong laughed. That's nice to hear, unlike my old man, who always says that I'm idle and don't do my job. Actually, I'm also very wronged. Although I often take my friends out to play, it doesn't delay my cultivation. Young Master Hao said with a sullen face, looking very wronged. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. Without opening the door to potential, to be able to cultivate to the 9-star war sect within 100 years, young Master Hao's talent could be considered 1 in 10,000. But if young Master Hao could calm down and cultivate, he might not have come to ask for his help today. Of course, as the only son of the main tower master, he did have the capital to play. After all, there was no pressure. Let's go in. Young Master Hao kicked open the gate of the courtyard and swaggered in. Does he have a problem with his father? Qin Feiyong's face twitched, and he quickly followed. The two of them passed through the flower bed and walked to the pavilion. Greetings, Chief Pagoda Master. Qin Feiyong bowed and said. However, the Chief Pagoda Master acted as if he didn't hear him and still closed his eyes. Don't talk at this time because even if you do, he won't pay attention to you. Just watch. Young Master Hao whispered in Qin Feiyong's ear, then went straight into the pavilion and sat on the stone bench opposite the Chief Pagoda Master. Qin Feiyong also followed him into the pavilion and stood to the side, silently looking at the Chief Pagoda Master. Time passed breath by breath. After about 100 breaths, the Chief Pagoda Master suddenly took a deep breath. Qin Feiyong immediately knew that the Chief Pagoda Master had begun to write. He glanced at young Master Hao and saw that young Master Hao was indifferent, so he took the initiative to step forward, pour out the ink, and grind the ink for the Chief Pagoda Master. The Chief Pagoda Master also finally opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyong's actions with a hint of admiration in his eyes. But he didn't say anything. He grabbed the brush and wrote on the white paper on the table unhurriedly. Every stroke he wrote seemed to be vigorous and powerful, but it was also filled with an ethereal aura. And there was no pause at all. It was like moving clouds and flowing water, all in one go. Furthermore, there seemed to be a formless demonic power contained within those words. It caused Qin Feiyong's state of mind to calm down. Chapter 945. What a good word. Qin Feiyong murmured. Young Master Hao looked at him in confusion. The Chief Pagoda Master also looked at him in surprise, then put down the brush and asked with a smile, Why do you say so? Qin Feiyong was silent for a while, then said, Because I saw your painstaking efforts in the word. Oh! The Chief Pagoda Master was immediately interested and said with a smile, Tell me about it. Hearing this, young Master Hao looked at the word on the white paper again. But he didn't see anything. Then he looked at Qin Feiyong and frowned. It's just a word. What painstaking efforts can there be? Brother Mu, don't be deliberately mystifying. Deliberately mystifying? Qin Feiyong shook his head and said with a smile, The ancients said that stillness can give birth to calmness, and calmness can give birth to wisdom. Of course, the word stillness here doesn't refer to the stillness of external objects, but the stillness of the soul. Only with a calm heart can one's body and mind be as one, see through the essence of the world, and comprehend the root of all things. Similarly, there is a saying in Buddhism and Taoism that stillness can lead to enlightenment, and also to enlightenment. Qin Feiyong then turned to look at young Master Hao and said with a smile, If I'm not wrong, the Chief Pagoda Master wrote the word stillness specifically for you, Brother Hao? For me? Young Master Hao was stunned. Yes. The Chief Pagoda Master hopes that Brother Hao can understand the true meaning of this word, and concentrate on cultivation in the future. Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Young Master Hao frowned and looked at the Chief Pagoda Master. But the Chief Pagoda Master didn't say anything. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, I finally know why Elder Wang likes you so much. He likes me? Qin Feiyong was surprised. You don't know yet, do you? Elder Wang was full of praise for you in front of me. In fact, from the looks of it, he even wanted to take you as his disciple. The chief pagoda master said with a smile. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Then he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Chief pagoda master sighed deeply. He looked at young Master Hao and said, if you had even half of his wisdom, I would be satisfied. Am I really your son? Yes. He is about to become your personal disciple. In the future, we can be considered as a family. But there isn't one yet, is there? Is there a need for you to talk about me like that in front of him? Besides, haven't I already broken through to the battle saint rank? Young Master Hao was obviously displeased and felt that he had lost face. Breakthrough? The chief pagoda master was startled. He carefully sized up young Master Hao and was overjoyed. Previously, Xiao Chan had been so focused on talking to Qin Feiyong that he did not notice the change in young Master Hao's aura. How is it? I didn't embarrass you by becoming a battle saint in less than 100 years, did I? Young Master Hao said proudly. The chief pagoda master rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyong. Can you tell me how many years you've been cultivating? Me. Qin Feiyong looked at young Master Hao with a hesitant expression. Young Master Hao said, it's fine. I'm not afraid of being shocked. Just tell me. It's been too long. I can't remember clearly. I guess it's been 200 years. Qin Feiyong said vaguely. Young Master Hao immediately laughed and said, see, I'm still the best. Look at how proud you are. The chief pagoda master glared at him, then looked at Qin Feiyong again and transmitted his voice, thank you. Thank me? Qin Feiyong was startled. He was puzzled and asked, why do you say that, sir? I can see that you're not telling the truth. I also know that you're not telling the truth because you don't want my son to be shocked. In the future, please help me take care of him. After all, you're all young people. There's no generation gap. The chief pagoda master transmitted his voice. Okay. Qin Feiyong secretly replied. The chief pagoda master said with a smile, all right, back to the topic. I'll take you to a place. I want to go too. Young Master Hao hurriedly said. You? The chief pagoda master frowned. After pondering for a moment, he nodded and said, all right, since you've already broken through to the battle saint realm, you can give it a try. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and swept up Qin Feiyong and young Master Hao into the sky, flying deeper into the sky. The chief pagoda master's speed was extremely fast. The mountains and rivers below flashed by like lightning. Qin Feiyong and young Master Hao could only see blurry reflections. About 100 breaths later, the chief pagoda master suddenly slowed down. The mountains and rivers below immediately appeared clearly in front of Qin Feiyong's eyes. The mountains below were stacked on top of each other, towering and majestic. Ferocious birds spread their wings and flew in the air. They were as big as mountains and as small as sparrows, but without exception, they all exuded an extremely terrifying aura. And in the mountains there were even groups of ferocious beasts. Boom! Suddenly, a series of deafening noises could be heard from somewhere below. Qin Feiyong looked over and was instantly shocked. There was actually a few hundred mountains moving quickly there. The earth was trembling because of it. The mountains could actually move. Did he see a ghost? Young Master Hao transmitted his voice. That's not a mountain, it's a stone beast. Stone beast? Qin Feiyong was shocked. He had also heard of this kind of ferocious beast. It was also a species from 10,000 years ago, and its appearance was just like a mountain. If it lay on the ground without moving, no one would notice that it was a ferocious beast at all. But the ferocious beasts here were a bit too strong, weren't they? According to his observation, most of the ferocious beasts and birds here had the strength of a battle emperor. As if seeing Qin Feiyong's doubts, young Master Hao transmitted his voice. The existence of these ferocious beasts is only to guard a place. Qin Feiyong was surprised. What kind of place would need so many powerful ferocious beasts to guard? The land of inheritance. Young Master Hao said. The land of inheritance? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Young Master Hao secretly said, you'll know when we get there. The deeper they went, the more shocked Qin Feiyong became. Because in the depths, almost all of them were Battle Emperor level ferocious beasts. Soon, a huge mountain came into sight. That giant peak stood tall and upright among the mountains. It was taller and more majestic than any other mountain, towering into the clouds. However, the peak of that huge mountain was very strange. It was as if someone had once used a huge axe to chop it. It was as flat as a mirror. That's the land of inheritance. Young Master Hao transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang. He looked at the peak of the mountain with a strong desire in his eyes. Qin Feiyang raised his head and saw a few blurry stone statues on the flat peak of the mountain. Very tall, very big. Although he could not see the faces of those stone statues clearly, he could already feel a strong pressure. Shua! 10 breaths later. The chief pagoda master led the two of them to the peak of the mountain. Qin Feiyang glanced at the peak of the mountain. The peak of the mountain was about half a mile long. It was paved with a layer of dark stone bricks, emitting an ancient aura. In the middle of the peak of the mountain, there were 4 stone statues standing side by side, from left to right. The first stone statue was of an old man with white hair. He wore a white robe and had a kind face. His body was emitting an ethereal aura. The second stone statue was of a middle-aged man. He wore a black robe. His long hair was draped over his shoulders. His hands were behind his back. His pitch-black eyes were looking down at the ground. His entire body exuded an astonishingly sharp aura. The third stone statue was of a woman. Compared to the previous 2 stone statues, she was particularly petite, but her aura was more outstanding. Her silky black hair was tied up high with a golden hairpin inserted in the middle, making her look graceful and luxurious. Her facial features were delicate, and she was tall. She wore a light golden long dress that dragged on the ground. A true phoenix pattern was embroidered on the dress. She looked like an empress who had descended to the world with a great majesty. When Qin Feiyang looked at the 4th stone statue, it was like a bolt from the blue. His mind rumbled. The 4th stone statue was the same as the 2nd stone statue. It was also a middle-aged man. But the difference was that he was wearing a purple gold dragon robe. His entire body was emitting a shocking domineering aura. And in his hand, he was holding a broken sword. Wasn't this his ancestor? How could this be? Qin Feiyang's mind was in a mess. One must know. This was the inheritance ground of the chief pagoda. The so-called inheritance ground was actually the place to accept the inheritance. This place could be said to be the most important forbidden area of the chief pagoda. And his ancestor as the first emperor of the Great Qin Empire, how could his statue appear here? Greetings to the 3 ancestors. Suddenly, the chief pagoda master's voice sounded, waking Qin Feiyang up. Ancestor. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes as he followed the chief pagoda master's gaze. Immediately, his body and mind tensed up. He saw that under the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd stone statues, there was an old man sitting cross-legged. These 3 old men had white hair and their eyes were like gold coins. There was not the slightest aura on their bodies. It was impossible to distinguish their cultivation. But Qin Feiyang could clearly feel a strong sense of crisis from the 3 of them. Greetings to the 3 ancestors. Young Master Hao also put away his frivolous attitude and bowed to the 3 people. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was still looking at the 3 of them as if nothing had happened, young Master Hao hurriedly sent a sound transmission. Brother Mu, what are you doing? Hurry up and salute. Qin Feiyang quivered and hurriedly bowed, saying, This disciple admires the ancestors, greets the 3 seniors. However, in the face of Qin Feiyang and the other 2's salute, the 3 old men did not open their eyes, nor did they say a word. Seeing this situation, Qin Feiyang's heart suddenly felt inconceivable to the extreme. It was understandable that these 3 old men ignored him and young Master Hao. After all, they were juniors. But the chief tower master was the person with the highest authority in the Forgotten Continent. To put it bluntly, he was the ruler of the Forgotten Continent. So no matter what, in the face of the chief tower master's salute, they should at least reply. But these 3 people did not move at all, as if they did not put the chief tower master in their eyes at all. This was something worth pondering. Even the chief tower master did not pay attention to them. What kind of role did these 3 people play in the chief tower? But the chief tower master was not surprised by the 3 people's attitude, nor did he have the slightest trace of anger. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, Do you know who they are? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Let me introduce them to you. The first statue is our Pill Tower's ancestor, who is also the first Chief Tower Master. The Pill Tower was also founded by him. The second statue is the second Chief Tower Master. He is also the ancestor's only disciple. As for the third statue, she is the previous Chief Tower Master. Moreover, she is the daughter of the second Chief Tower Master, and also my senior sister. Chapter 946. Senior Sister? Qin Feiyang was surprised. He looked at the Chief Tower Master and said, "So, you're the disciple of the second Chief Tower Master?" "Yes. But because my talent is much worse than Senior Sister's, Master passed the position of Chief Tower Master to Senior Sister. Until 10,000 years ago, when Senior Sister met with an accident and had no successor by her side, everyone let me take the position of Chief Tower Master. If Senior Sister were still here, the current Pill Pagoda might be completely different." The Chief Tower Master sighed. There was a touch of disappointment between his eyebrows. Met with an accident? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Who would dare to harm the Chief Tower Master? However, he also knew what to ask and what not to ask. Phew! The Chief Tower Master took a deep breath and calmed his emotions. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Do you know why I brought you here?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "In our Chief Tower, there has always been a rule that only those who have obtained the inheritance of the previous generations can become the Chief Tower Master's disciple." The Chief Tower Master said, "It's really an inheritance." Qin Feiyang was secretly happy, because as long as it was an inheritance, he would inevitably obtain great benefits. The Chief Tower Master said, "Now, as long as you can obtain the inheritance of any Chief Tower Master, I will officially accept you as my disciple." Qin Feiyang looked at the three statues, then looked at the statue of the ancestor, and asked suspiciously, "Whose statue is that?" This sentence seemed to have touched the Chief Tower Master's heartstrings, and his eyes suddenly sank. His hands in his sleeves were tightly clenched together. Qin Feiyang was surprised. What did this mean? Could it be that the Chief Tower Master and the ancestor were enemies? But no, if they were enemies, the Chief Tower Master would definitely not allow the ancestor's statue to be placed in the place of inheritance. What secret was hidden in this? Qin Feiyang glanced at young Master Hao from the corner of his eyes and transmitted his voice, "Brother Hao, do you know?" "I don't know. I've been here a few times before, so I'm not unfamiliar with the statue. But as for who it is, my father never told me." Young Master Hao said to himself, "It seems that there must be a story behind this." Qin Feiyang mumbled. The Chief Pagoda Master looked at the statue of the first emperor. After a moment of silence he said, "He is a famous figure, but it has nothing to do with the inheritance." "Oh." Qin Feiyang nodded and did not continue to ask. Chief Pagoda Master withdrew his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang and young noble Hao. He asked, "Which one of you will go up first to receive the inheritance?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Brother Hao, you go first. After all, you are the host." "Then I won't stand on ceremony." Young Master Hao excitedly walked up to the three statues and bowed to them one by one. Immediately after, he retreated more than 100 feet and stood in front of the three statues. He bowed again and then cut his fingertip. 3 drops of blood flew into the air and entered the glabella of the three statues. Next, young Master Hao then closed his eyes, looking extremely pious. "This inheritance needs blood to open?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. This kind of situation was nothing for others, but for him it was a very troublesome problem, because his purple gold dragon blood was too special, and the Chief Pagoda Master, judging from his previous expression, must have known the first emperor. Since he knew him, then it was very likely that he also knew that the blood of the first emperor was also purple gold dragon blood. In this way, when the Chief Pagoda Master saw that he also had purple gold dragon blood, he would definitely associate him with the ancestor. How would he explain at that time? Buzz! Suddenly, the statue of the second Chief Pagoda Master bloomed with a hazy light. Did it work? Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked over, a touch of surprise crawling up in his eyes. At the same time, the Chief Pagoda Master also looked up at the stone statue with an unconcealable joy on his face. Almost in the next moment, a white divine light flashed out from the glabella of the statue and entered the top of young noble Hao's head like lightning. Young noble Hao immediately entered an ethereal state. After 100 breaths, the light on the statue began to slowly dissipate. But young noble Hao showed no signs of waking up. Until another 100 breaths passed, he suddenly opened his eyes, and 2 rays of light burst out of his eyes. "How is it?" The chief pagoda master hurriedly walked up and asked. Young noble Hao raised his head and glanced at the chief pagoda master. A sly look flashed in his eyes, then slowly got up and said in disappointment, "I only inherited an inferior battle art." "What?" The chief pagoda master's face turned pale. At the same time, the 3 old men also opened their eyes, their old eyes full of suspicion. Qin Feiyang also had a look of astonishment. Inferior battle art? What kind of joke is this? How could someone leave an inferior battle art to a descendant? Young noble Hao glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others, then looked at the chief pagoda master and sighed. "I'm sorry to disappoint you." Sigh. The chief pagoda master looked at young noble Hao and finally sighed, his expression incomparably lonely. That look was more like he had aged more than 10 years. But suddenly, young noble Hao laughed and said, "Old man, I lied to you, I got a divine art." "Divine art?" The chief pagoda master was stunned. "You didn't expect that there would be a day when you would be deceived by me?" "Haha, awesome." Young noble Hao laughed out loud, with a hint of ridicule at the corner of his mouth. "Little bastard." The chief pagoda master flew into a rage and directly slapped young noble Hao's head, causing him to grimace in pain. "Serves you right." The 3 old men glanced at young noble Hao with schadenfreude, then closed their eyes again. At the same time, Qin Feiyang looked at young noble Hao, a bright light flashing in the depths of his eyes. He never thought that what was passed down was actually a divine art. This was a huge temptation. Now he didn't know how to choose. Accept the inheritance? But what if the chief pagoda master recognized the purple gold dragon blood? Actually, the exposure of the purple gold dragon blood would not expose his identity for the time being. Because, in the entire Forgotten Continent, only the Mu family knew that he had just awakened the purple gold dragon blood. So as long as the Mu family did not say it, even if the purple gold dragon blood was exposed, no one would associate him with Qin Feiyang. But he had to consider the relationship between him and the ancestor. If the chief pagoda master really knew that the ancestor was also the purple gold dragon blood, if the chief pagoda master really had a grudge against the ancestor, then when he showed the purple gold dragon blood, it would definitely arouse the chief pagoda master's suspicion. At that time he would also inevitably ask about his identity. If it was someone else, he might be able to make up an excuse and dodge it. But this chief pagoda master, from the word quiet he wrote, Qin Feiyang already knew that he was not a simple character. Dodge? It would probably only backfire. But he was unwilling to give up, because he had worked so hard for so long for this moment. Not to mention that there was a high chance of getting the divine art. Moreover, the mysterious lady also said that the 5-colored crystal stone was on the chief pagoda master. If he didn't become the chief pagoda master's disciple, he wouldn't have the chance to get it. What should he do? Qin Feiyang's heart was in a mess. The chief pagoda master reprimanded young noble Hao a few words, then turned to look at Qin Feiyang and laughed. "It's your turn." It could be seen that he was very happy and gratified. "Come on." Young noble Hao also looked at Qin Feiyang and gave Qin Feiyang an encouraging look. Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 statues. On the surface there was nothing strange, but in his heart, he was struggling. "What are you waiting for? Go quickly, maybe you can also get a divine art." Seeing this, young noble Hao urged, "How can the divine art be so easy to get?" Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. "How do you know if you don't try?" Young noble Hao rolled his eyes at him, walked behind Qin Feiyang, and pushed Qin Feiyang towards the statue. Okay, I can walk by myself." Qin Feiyang looked at him helplessly, and then, like young noble Hao, walked to the 3 statues and bowed one by one. Then he also walked to the position where young noble Hao received the inheritance, turned to look at the 3 statues, and let out a long breath. He was going to take a gamble, because if he went back on his word now, it would arouse the chief pagoda master's suspicion. But just as Qin Feiyang raised his arm and was about to cut his fingertip, The old man sitting cross-legged below the first chief pagoda master suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyong. Wait. Qin Feiyong's heart trembled. Could it be that he had already been seen through before it even began? The chief pagoda master, young noble Hao, and the other two old men also opened their eyes one after another and looked at the old man in confusion. The old man said hoarsely, "This old man has a few words that I want to say to him alone. Can you all leave first?" Alone? The chief pagoda master and the others looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. The old man said, "It won't take too much time." "All right." The other two old men stood up, turned into a stream of light, and disappeared into the mountain stream below like lightning. Since the two old ancestors had left, the chief pagoda master naturally didn't dare to say anything. He waved his hand and quickly led young noble Hao into the mountain stream below. Qin Feiyong frowned imperceptibly, looked at the old man and asked puzzledly, "Senior, what is the meaning of this?" The old man said, "Then answer this old man first. What are you hesitating about?" Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank. "Enough chit-chat. While they are not here, quickly open the inheritance," the old man said indifferently. Qin Feiyong was surprised. This old man was actually helping him. But why? "Hurry up," the old man urged. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded repeatedly and quickly cut his fingertip. 3 drops of purple gold dragon blood flowed out, and in the blink of an eye, merged into the forehead of the 3 statues. Looking at the purple gold dragon blood, the old man's eyes flashed with an imperceptible light. "You can come up." Then, the old man shouted to the chief pagoda master and the other 3, then closed his eyes and fell silent. "Thank you, senior." Qin Feiyong bowed, then sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. Although he was very confused, he knew that even if he asked, the old man might not tell him, so there was no need to waste time. Soon after, the chief pagoda master and the other 3 also flew to the top of the mountain one after another. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was accepting the inheritance, they didn't disturb him. Time slowly passed. About 300 breaths passed, but the 3 statues didn't move at all. What's going on? Could it be that he failed? Young noble Hao muttered, his brows tightly knitted together. The inheritance here can only be obtained by the fated person. And obviously, this child is not the fated person. The chief pagoda master whispered, a trace of regret on his face. He was quite satisfied with Qin Feiyong. Chapter 947. Another few hundred breaths passed. There was still no reaction from the 3 statues. The old man who helped Qin Feiyong couldn't help but gradually frown. The chief tower master looked at Qin Feiyong and sighed. "Although you didn't get the inheritance, as long as you work hard, you will achieve something in the future with your talent." Qin Feiyong slowly opened his eyes. There was a trace of disappointment on his face. He would be satisfied if he could get a perfect battle art, let alone a divine art like young Master Hao. But he didn't expect that the statues wouldn't even satisfy him. But there was nothing he could do about it. After all, the inheritance here depended on luck. No one could force it. Buzz! But just as he was about to get up, the first statue suddenly released a ray of blood-red light. The chief tower master was shocked. The 3 old men also opened their eyes at the same time and stared at the statue in disbelief. What's there to be surprised about? Young Master Hao was a little confused by the chief tower master's reaction. "What do you know?" The chief tower master glared at him. "What do you mean?" Young Master Hao was even more confused. The chief tower master said in a low voice, "Since ancient times, only one person has obtained the inheritance of the first chief tower master." "Who?" Young Master Hao was surprised. The chief tower master said, "My senior sister, the previous chief tower master." Young Master Hao was shocked. "Then, is an ancestor Mu the second person?" "Yes. It is said that the inheritance of the first chief tower master contains the opportunity to become a god. In other words, as long as one can obtain the inheritance of the first chief tower master, there is a high chance that one will become a god in the future. Naturally, this is not a legend. That's because that senior of mine managed to reach the semi-divinity realm not too long after she obtained the heritage. And our chief tower master has a rule. Anyone who obtains the inheritance of the first Chief Tower Master, no matter who or what identity they have, must be protected by everyone in the Chief Tower Master, and let them inherit the position of the Chief Tower Master. The Chief Tower Master said in a deep voice. This young Master Hao was also stunned. There was an opportunity to become a god. Wasn't this too shocking? Whoosh! Suddenly, a dazzling blood-red light flashed out from the forehead of the first Chief Tower Master and entered Qin Feiyang's head. Qin Feiyang also immediately entered an ethereal state, his expression extremely serene. Young Master Hao glanced at Qin Feiyang and said inwardly, "Old man, according to what you said just now, wouldn't this ancestor Mu already be the next Chief Pagoda Master?" "Yes. After I abdicate, he will be the Chief Tower Master. No one can replace him," the Chief Tower Master said. Young Master Hao asked, "Then what if it's someone who has committed heinous crimes or has a grudge against our main pagoda? Can only be reformed. Can't be killed. This is the will left behind by the first Chief Tower Master. No one can go against it." The Chief Tower Master. Isn't this equivalent to having a death exemption token? Young Master Hao stared blankly at Qin Feiyang. He couldn't help but envy him. At the same time, the Chief Tower Master looked at Qin Feiyang with an inexplicable color in his eyes. Time flew by. Half an hour passed. Why hasn't he woken up yet? Young Master Hao was surprised. It takes a long time to inherit the inheritance of the first Chief Tower Master. That senior sister of mine took an entire half a month back then. This ancestor worship should take even longer. Let's go back first. The Chief Tower Master pondered and said, "Half a month?" Young Master Hao was surprised. He shook his head and said, "You go back first. I'll stay here and wait for him." The Chief Tower Master was slightly taken aback. He frowned and said, "When did your relationship with him become so good?" Young Master Hao snorted coldly. "Can't I have a close friend?" "Close friend?" The Chief Tower Master glanced at Qin Feiyang and raised his eyebrows. Then, he didn't say anything else and quickly turned to leave. "The inheritance of the first Chief Tower Master, you brat, you really hit the jackpot." Young Master Hao looked at Qin Feiyang and muttered. Then, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to recuperate. The three old men looked at each other and closed their eyes. The land of inheritance soon fell into a dead silence. Back to the Chief Tower Master. After leaving the land of inheritance, he directly returned to his residence and sat in the pavilion with an upset look. "Gongsun Bei, come and see me quickly." Suddenly, he shouted through the air. Whoosh! Soon, Gongsun Bei streaked across the sky and landed in front of the Chief Tower Master. He bowed and said, "Sir, what orders do you have?" The Chief Tower Master said in a deep voice, "Immediately investigate the identity of ancestor worship." Gongsun Bei was taken aback and asked suspiciously, "Why?" The Chief Tower Master said, "He just obtained the inheritance of the first Chief Tower Master." "What?" Gongsun Bei's face changed. Then, he looked at the Chief Tower Master's expression. A light flashed in his eyes as he nodded and said, "I understand. I'll investigate immediately. Remember, don't leak out the fact that he obtained the inheritance of the first Chief Tower Master." The Chief Tower Master reminded. "Okay." Gongsun Bei nodded, then rose into the air and flew toward the north. After a while, he stopped in the air above a courtyard. Next to a flower bed in the courtyard, a white-haired old man was lying on an armchair, basking in the sun. He looked quite comfortable. "Old Lu, you're living a good life." Gongsun Bei landed in front of the old man and chuckled. That's right. This old man was Mu Qing's second grandfather, Lu Xingfeng. Lu Xingfeng opened his eyes and said with a smile, "I'm just taking a break from work." "Why? Do you need something from me?" "Yes, there is something." Gongsun Bei nodded and said, "I heard that you were the one who recommended ancestor worship. You should know his origin, right?" Lu Xingfeng's heart trembled. He asked calmly, "Why are you suddenly asking about him?" "To tell you the truth, Sir just told me to investigate the identity of ancestor worship. But I really don't know where to start, so I came to ask you. I hope you can tell me the truth." Gongsun Bei cupped his hands and smiled. His attitude was very polite. "Sir is investigating his identity?" Did he do something wrong? Lu Xingfeng was surprised. No, he didn't. Gong Sunbei shook his head. Lu Xingfeng frowned and said, Then why do you suddenly want to investigate him? I guess you've heard that the Chief Tower Master thinks highly of him and wants to take him as his disciple. Before that, we have to find out who he is. Gong Sunbei smiled. So that's how it is. Lu Xingfeng suddenly understood. He stood up and smiled. To be honest, I don't know his identity either. Gong Sunbei raised his eyebrows. This answer was out of his expectations. He asked suspiciously, Since you don't know his identity, why did you give him the God Envoy token? When I saw him in the 9th area, I saw that he was very talented, so I wanted to take him as a talent. At that time, we were at the crucial stage of capturing Qin Feiyang, so I didn't investigate his identity, Lu Xingfeng said. Hearing this, Gong Sunbei frowned and said, His talent is indeed very outstanding, but you can't just ignore it. Yes, that's my negligence. Lu Xingfeng nodded and said, But there's someone who should know. Who? Gong Sunbei asked. Qin Dai. He's with Ancestor Mu, and the two of them seem to have a good relationship. He should know about Ancestor Mu's situation. Lu Xingfeng said. Okay, I'll go ask him now. Sorry to bother you. Gong Sunbei cupped his hands. It's fine. Lu Xingfeng waved his hand. Gong Sunbei smiled and then turned into a stream of light and quickly left. After Gong Sunbei left, Lu Xingfeng's eyes flashed. He turned around and entered the attic. He closed the door tightly and then took out the image crystal. Wang! In less than 3 breaths, Mu Qing's figure appeared above the image crystal. Second Grandpa? Mu Qing's pupil shrank as she hurriedly said, Second Grandpa, didn't we agree not to send me a message in the Chief Tower? What if someone sees me? I know, but I have to send you a message now. Because the Chief Tower Master asked Gong Sunbei to investigate Qin Feiyang's identity. Lu Xingfeng said. What? Mu Qing was shocked. Was the Chief Pagoda Master having a stroke? Why didn't he investigate before? Why did he suddenly attack now? Lu Xingfeng said. There's no time to explain. Gong Sunbei has already gone to find you. Arrange it immediately. How? Mu Qing frowned. Lu Xingfeng said. You have to create a fake identity for Qin Feiyang in the 9th area. Create a fake identity, Mu Qing pondered for a while. Then her eyes suddenly lit up as she nodded and smiled. I know what to do. Seeing the smile on Mu Qing's face, Lu Xingfeng also let out a sigh of relief. In terms of cultivation he was much stronger than Mu Qing, but in terms of brains he was inferior. Alchemy room number 9 of the first tower. After Mu Qing turned off the image crystal, she immediately sent a message. After a while, a middle-aged man appeared. He was tall and wore a long white robe. There were strands of white hair at his temples. His dark eyes emitted a sharp light. His whole body exuded the majesty of a superior. Father. Mu Qing bowed. The Mu family had nodded and asked with a smile, How's the progress on your side? Mu Qing said, It's going well, but there's a small problem now. I need father's help. Small problem? The Mu family head frowned and said, Say it quickly. I need you to immediately arrange 2 people to go to the 9th area and pretend to be Qin Feiyang's parents. Their cultivation doesn't need to be too high. 1-star combat emperor will do. Also, they need to dress plainly. Mu Qing said. The Mu family head's eyes slightly sank. So, the Chief Tower has already suspected Qin Feiyang's identity? No. Just investigating. Go and arrange it quickly. I'll take Gong Sunbei to the 9th area later. Mu Qing urged. Good. The Mu family had nodded and asked, What about the location? Since they want to pretend to be Qin Feiyang's parents, they must fake a home. And to fake a home, they naturally have to find a suitable place. When I was in the 9th area, I encountered an ice lake in the south of Ice Crystal City. There were few people there, so the location was chosen. As soon as Mu Qing finished, there was a knock on the door outside. It should be Gong Sunbei. Go and arrange it, do it carefully, don't expose any flaws. I will also try to delay Gong Sunbei here to buy more time for you. Although the Mu family has countless strong rankers, it will take some time to fake a home. If they take Gong Sunbei to the ice lake now, there will be no time to arrange it. After that, Mu Qing gave the coordinates of the ice lake to the Mu family head, then put away the image crystal, but didn't immediately open the door. Instead, he walked into the alchemy room and started the alchemy fire. What are you doing inside? Outside the door. After a while, Gongsun Bei gradually lost his patience and reached out his hand to knock a few more times. The stone door still showed no signs of opening. Is he not in the alchemy room? He couldn't help but frown. After waiting for a little while, he couldn't wait any longer and turned to leave. But at this moment the stone door slowly opened. It turned out to be Master Gongsun. Is there something you need from this disciple? Mu Qing pretended to be confused and stood behind the door, looking at Gongsun Bei suspiciously. Why did it take so long to open the door? Gongsun Bei frowned. Mu Qing hurriedly said, Disciple was refining just now. If I offended you, I hope Master will forgive me. Gongsun Bei entered the alchemy room and sniffed. There was indeed a strong medicinal fragrance in the air, so he didn't pursue it. Then, he closed the stone door and looked at Mu Qing. Are you familiar with Ancestor Mu? Very familiar. Mu Qing nodded. Gongsun Bei asked, Then do you know who is in his family? Mu Qing thought for a moment and said, Apart from his parents, he has no other siblings. Gongsun Bei asked again, Then do you know where his family is? Mu Qing shook his head. I haven't been there, but I heard him mention it. It seems to be somewhere outside Ice Crystal City. Where is it? Think carefully. Gongsun Bei urged. Okay. Mu Qing nodded repeatedly, then lowered his head and pretended to think hard. More than half an hour passed as he pondered. Gongsun Bei was sleepy from waiting. Mu Qing himself was also sleepy because he didn't think of anything at all. When a person was in this state for a long time, even if he didn't want to sleep, he still wanted to sleep. Gongsun Bei yawned and said, Have you thought of anything? Mu Qing was troubled. It's been too long. I really can't think of anything now. Gongsun Bei's face darkened. He suppressed his anger and smiled. Don't worry, think slowly. I'll go over there and take a nap. After that, he entered the lounge and leaned on the chair, closing his eyes to rest. Okay. Mu Qing nodded. But when he looked at Gongsun Bei, there was a hint of ridicule. In the blink of an eye, more than half an hour passed. I can't delay any longer. Otherwise, it will arouse his suspicion. But over there, Father should be done with the arrangements. Mu Qing muttered secretly. His eyes flashed. Then he hurried into the lounge and said, Lord, disciple remembers. Shua. Gongsun Bei immediately opened his eyes and asked, Where is it? Back then, Ancestor Mu said that his family is next to an ice lake in the south of Ice Crystal City. Mu Qing said, Take me there. Gongsun Bei said, Mu Qing was slightly taken aback and asked suspiciously, Why are we going there? Gongsun Bei said, Of course, to confirm it. This, Mu Qing hesitated. Lord, disciple has a question. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask. Speak. Gongsun Bei said, obviously starting to get impatient. Mu Qing asked, Did Ancestor Mu do something wrong? Investigate him. Don't you know that the chief pagoda master intends to take him as a disciple? Gongsun Bei looked at him suspiciously. There's such a thing? Mu Qing looked surprised, then anger rose in his eyes. He said unhappily, This bastard actually hid such a good thing from me. This is too much. You really don't know? This time it was Gongsun Bei's turn to be stunned. He shook his head and said, He might want to give you a surprise. Who cares? Mu Qing said disdainfully, So, the chief pagoda master wants to investigate his identity. Yes. Gongsun Bei nodded. That makes sense. After all, if it were anyone else, they would not be at ease to have someone of unknown origin become their personal disciple. Okay, disciple will take you there now. Mu Qing said and opened the portal. Shua. The next moment, the two appeared in the square of the Pill Pagoda. After Gongsun Bei explained the purpose of his visit to the law enforcement elder guarding the teleportation altar, he opened the altar and brought Mu Qing to the teleportation altar in the 9th region. Then, the two did not delay at all. They flew straight out of Ice Crystal City and headed south. Mu Qing certainly knew the location of the ice lake. But he brought Gongsun Bei everywhere, and this was naturally to buy time. Chapter 948. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. At this moment it was almost dark. Do you know the way or not? After wandering around for so long, Gongsun-Bei had long lost his patience. I said from the beginning that I have never been to his house. How would I know the way? Mu Qing said helplessly. Then how long do we have to search? Gongsun-Bei frowned. I don't know either. Mu Qing shook his head, glancing at the glacier below with a look of annoyance. Gongsun-Bei couldn't help but feel weak. This guy was really unreliable. Gradually, night fell. There was no moon in the sky, and the earth gradually fell into darkness. But for the two of them it didn't affect them. This should be more or less done. Mu Qing glanced at the sky and muttered to herself. Then she pretended to look for him in front of her. Gongsun-Bei followed behind Mu Qing, looking all over the earth. About half an hour later, Mu Qing suddenly stopped and pointed ahead, saying, "Lord, look, there is an ice lake." Gongsun-Bei looked over, and there was indeed an ice lake a few miles ahead. "Let's go and take a look," Gongsun-Bei urged. The two turned into a stream of light and quickly landed above the ice lake. The ice lake was about a few hundred feet long, and there was a thick layer of ice on the surface. White mist rose and the cold air was oppressive. Around the ice lake there was an endless ice forest with fierce beasts roaming around. Mu Qing scanned the forest. Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and he locked onto a certain place in the forest in the north, saying, "Lord, there is a fire there." Gongsun-Bei turned his head, and there was indeed a wisp of fire in the forest. Whoosh! The two of them flew over. Gongsun-Bei suddenly asked, "Have you seen Ancestor Mu's parents?" "No. But I heard from Ancestor Mu that his parents are people who live in seclusion and never appear in front of others," Mu Qing said. People who live in seclusion? Gongsun-Bei was surprised. Generally speaking, people who chose to live in seclusion and concentrate on cultivation had a far better temperament than ordinary people. In other words, Ancestor Mu's parents were likely to be two hidden experts. A dozen breaths later, the two of them descended above the forest and looked down. In the woods below, there was a courtyard that covered an area of about 100 zhang, surrounded by a row of wooden fences. In the courtyard, there was a small two-story wooden building. It looked very old and exuded an ancient aura. The roof of the wooden building and the wooden railings were covered with a thin layer of ice and snow. "Isn't this too realistic?" Mu Qing muttered to herself. Although he didn't see anyone in the courtyard, he could basically conclude that this courtyard must have been built by his father. In other words, this courtyard had been built not long ago. However, it looked as if it had existed for decades, or even centuries, and was filled with a decaying aura. At this moment the courtyard door was tightly shut. In the middle of the courtyard, there was a bonfire that was burning and emitting sparks. In the meantime, from a window on the second floor of the wooden building, faint candlelight could be seen. "Go down and ask." Gongsun-Bei looked at the window and whispered. "All right." Mu Qing nodded and landed in front of the courtyard door. He bowed and said, "May I ask if this is Ancestor Mu's home?" Not long after he finished speaking, the window on the second floor slowly opened, and a man and a woman entered Mu Qing's sight. Both of them looked middle-aged. The man's body was slightly robust, and he was wearing a white tiger skin coat. There were wisps of white hair at his temples, and he was full of vicissitudes of life. The woman looked dignified, wearing a snow-white mink fur coat. Although there were crow's feet at the corners of her eyes, she was still charming. The two of them stood side by side in front of the window, looking at Mu Qing and then at Gongsun-Bei, their faces full of suspicion. But at the same time, the man secretly sent a message to Mu Qing. "Young master, why are you only here now? I was afraid that you hadn't arranged it yet. So I took Gongsun-Bei to wander around the mountains for most of the day." Mu Qing laughed secretly. "I see." The two of them suddenly understood. Mu Qing said suspiciously, "How did you do it? It's actually so realistic. In order to fake this courtyard we spent a lot of effort. Look at these rotten woods. They were all specially found from our clan. Of course the biggest credit is the ice and snow here. If it wasn't frozen, no matter how we cover it, there would still be some traces left." The man laughed. "That's true," Mu Qing muttered. "Ice and snow could cover all traces. and the 9 regions snowed all year round, and the temperature was terrifyingly low. It was no exaggeration to say that if a basin of water was placed outside, it would freeze in less than an hour. Therefore, in this environment, as long as one did it carefully, it would be difficult to find any flaws. The man said secretly, "What should we do next? I believe my father has already told you about Qin Feiyang's situation. You just need to pretend to be more realistic." Mu Qing said. "Okay." The man nodded in agreement. In the blink of an eye, the man glanced at Mu Qing and Gong Sunbei, nodded and said, "This is the home of ancestor Mu. May I ask who you are?" Mu Qing cupped his hands and said, "Junior Qin Dai is a friend of ancestor Mu. So you're a friend of Zong." The man's face suddenly showed a trace of a smile. As parents, they like to use an affectionate form of address when addressing their son. Mu Qing smiled and said, "So, you two are Brother Mu's parents?" "That's right." The two of them nodded. "Finally found it." Mu Qing let out a long breath and looked up at Gong Sunbei. Swish! Gong Sunbei flashed and landed in front of the courtyard. He cupped his hands and said, "I'm Gong Sunbei, the Chief Tower's messenger. Greetings." Chief Tower's messenger? The two of them looked at each other, quickly went downstairs, opened the courtyard door and said with a smile, "It's too cold outside. Please come in." "No need. I'm just here to confirm the identity of ancestor Mu." Gong Sunbei waved his hand and smiled. The woman was taken aback and showed a worried face. She said, "Did Zonger get into trouble outside? If so, please be magnanimous and don't bother with him." "Madam, you worry too much. Not only did ancestor Mu not get into trouble, but his performance in the Chief Tower made our Chief Tower very satisfied. Now, he even wants to take him as a personal disciple." Gong Sunbei smiled. "He went to the Chief Tower?" The couple looked surprised. "You two don't know?" Gong Sunbei looked at the two of them suspiciously. The man smiled bitterly and said, "To be honest, our child has been a little rebellious since he was young. No matter what he does, he won't tell us." "I see." Gong Sunbei nodded and said with a smile, "Many children are like this, but compared to other children, ancestor Mu is quite sensible, so you two don't have to worry about him." "Sensible? Messenger, don't comfort us. How can we not understand our child?" The two of them sighed. "Haha." Gong Sunbei shook his head and smiled. He asked curiously, "Seeing that you two are one-star combat emperors, you can be considered top experts in the Forgotten Continent. Why are you hiding here?" "I'm tired. So now, I just want to find a place where no one is around and peacefully live out my life," the man said with a smile. "The mundane world is just a dream. Actually, there are many people in this world who want to be like the two of you, to let go of everything and live a peaceful life in the mountains. But how many of them can do it? Everyone can't get rid of the curse of fame and power. But the two of you can do it. Your indifferent nature is admirable." Gong Sunbei cupped his hands and said, "I'm ashamed." The man shook his head and said with a smile, "Our place is remote. The two of you have come a long way, so we don't have much to entertain you. Why don't you have a cup of hot tea before you leave? The Chief Tower is still waiting for me to report back. I really can't stay for too long. When I have time in the future, I will definitely come and visit the two of you." Gong Sunbei said with a smile, "The envoy is too polite. Since the envoy has official business to attend to, then I won't force you to stay. You are welcome to visit us in the future. I also asked the envoy to take care of my son in the future." The couple said, "I'm afraid it's him who will take care of me in the future." Gong Sunbei shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Okay, I won't say any more. I'll take my leave. Then I won't see you off. Take care." The man cupped his hands and said with a smile. Gong Sunbei nodded and took Mu Qing into the air, and quickly disappeared into the night sky. The couple couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The woman asked, "What should we do now? Go back?" "Let's ask the patriarch first." The man pondered for a while and took out an image crystal. After a while, the Mujia's patriarch's shadow appeared and asked, "Did you send them away?" The two nodded. The Mujia's patriarch said, "Then you continue to stay there, in case the Chief Tower sends people to investigate again?" "Yes." The two bowed and said, "Chief Tower. In the courtyard attic, the chief tower master sat in the hall, looking at the flickering candlelight on the tea table without saying a word. In front of him, Gong Sunbei stood respectfully and explained the situation of Qin Feiyang's parents. A hidden person. After Gong Sunbei finished, the chief tower master muttered to himself. After a while, he looked up at Gong Sunbei and said, "So, there's no problem with his identity?" "Yes." Gong Sunbei nodded. Then his lips slightly opened as if he wanted to say something, but there seemed to be some kind of concern, so he didn't say it. "I know you can go now." The chief tower master lowered his head slightly and waved his hand. "Yes." Gong Sunbei bowed respectfully and turned around to leave. "Wait." Just as Gong Sunbei walked to the door, the chief tower master suddenly spoke again. Gong Sunbei stopped and turned to look at the chief tower master and asked, "Is there anything else? How's the situation in Qinghai?" The chief tower master asked. According to the report of the spy, it has been confirmed that a cluster of 7th-grade pill fire is about to be born. Gong Sunbei said. "Yes. This news must be blocked, otherwise, if the major tribes and the Mu family receive the news, they will definitely intervene," the chief tower master said. "I understand." Gong Sunbei nodded. "In addition, go and arrange a simple ceremony. After all, I want to accept a disciple, so I can't just do it casually," the chief tower master said again. "Then, do you want to inform the Mu family and the leaders of the major tribes?" Gong Sunbei asked. "The major tribes must be informed. As for the Mu family, forget it. It has nothing to do with us anyway," the chief tower master said. "Okay." Gong Sunbei nodded and turned around quickly. The inheritance of the first chief tower master. "I have to say, you little guy, your luck is really good." Chapter 949. Time flew by. The news that Qin Feiyang was going to become the chief tower master's disciple slowly spread to the world. One could imagine what kind of explosive news this was. In the following period of time, whether it was the major cities or the major tribes, they were all discussing this matter. Similarly, ever since the news spread, countless people went to the first tower to visit Qin Feiyang. Because the chief tower master's direct disciple's status in the Forgotten Continent was even higher than the god's messenger, they all wanted to curry favor with him as soon as possible. However, no one had seen Qin Feiyang before. Other than the chief tower master, young master Hao, Gong Sunbei and a few others, no one knew that Qin Feiyang was in the land of inheritance. They also didn't know that he was comprehending the inheritance of the first tower master. If this news were to spread, it would be even more shocking. The land of inheritance. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. Swish. It was also this morning that Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his eyes. 2 rays of purple gold divine light burst out. So that's how it is. He raised his head to look at the statue of the first chief tower master, and there was a touch of excitement between his brows. The inheritance he received was also a type of divine art. Moreover, it was the soul refining technique that he couldn't comprehend. According to the information in the inheritance, the soul refining technique was a divine art created by the first chief tower master. However, although the soul refining technique was a divine art, it had no attack power. Its only use was to train the soul and increase the grade of the mental energy. That's right. It was to increase the mental energy. And this was what Qin Feiyang desired the most right now. Now, he used the 7th grade pill fire to refine pills, and it wouldn't take long for his mental energy to dry up. Why was that? It was because his mental energy had already reached its limit. If it was the 8th grade pill fire with his current mental energy, he estimated that he could only last for half an hour at most. A mere half an hour couldn't refine a few pills at all. Therefore, the appearance of this soul refining technique was simply like manna from the heavens to him, solving the most important problem at hand. However, he was still unable to cultivate the soul refining technique. This was because this inheritance only contained the experience of the soul refining technique, but not the chant. As for the jade slip that he had obtained from the martial arts treasure house, it did contain the incantation, but it was only a small part of it. In other words, the soul refining art that he currently grasped was incomplete. Here came the problem. Where is the rest of the chant? Only by finding all the incantations would one be able to cultivate the soul-refining technique. Could it be that it was also in the martial arts treasury? Thinking of this, Qin Feiyong stood up and bowed to the statue of the first chief tower master. Immediately after, he then looked at the old man who helped him and transmitted his voice. "Thank you, senior." The old man looked very ordinary. There was a faint scar above his left eye. He did not open his eyes, nor did he respond to Qin Feiyong. He was like a cold stone statue. Qin Feiyong gazed at him deeply. He didn't linger any longer. He turned around and walked towards young Master Hao. During these 10 days, young Master Hao had been meditating with his eyes closed, waiting for Qin Feiyong. "I'm up." Qin Feiyong walked forward and said with a smile, "Done." Young Master Hao opened his eyes and looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyong nodded. Young Master Hao was refreshed. He stood up and asked, "What divine art did you get?" "The experience of the soul-refining art." Qin Feiyong did not hide it. Soul-refining art? Heard of it. Not only did young Master Hao not have the slightest joy, but there was a trace of doubt on his face. "Is there a problem?" Qin Feiyong asked. Young Master Hao said, "Of course there is a problem." But before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyong suddenly reached out his hand to stop young Master Hao and said in a low voice, "Let's talk while walking. Don't disturb them anymore." "Okay." Young Master Hao glanced at the 3 old men and nodded. Whoosh! The 2 of them rose into the air like lightning and flew towards the holy land of the chief tower. Young Master Hao frowned and said, "The inheritance you got is really the soul-refining art? Why would I lie to you?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. "That's strange. Didn't you say that the soul-refining art is a kind of ungraded battle art?" Young Master Hao frowned. Qin Feiyong looked at young Master Hao with a trace of doubt in his eyes. This person was the son of the chief tower master. How could he not know about the soul-refining art? Or could it be that even the chief tower master did not know the origin of the soul-refining art? "Hurry up and tell me clearly." Seeing that Qin Feiyong did not speak for a long time, young Master Hao asked impatiently, "The soul-refining art is not an ungraded battle art, but a divine art. It was created by the first chief tower master. It can train the soul and increase the strength of one's mental strength." Qin Feiyong explained briefly. "Are you kidding me?" Young Master Hao's body stiffened. He stared at Qin Feiyong in surprise. Qin Feiyong looked at him helplessly and raised his hand. "I swear." "Damn." Young Master Hao was dumbfounded. His eyeballs were about to fall out. He did not expect that the soul-refining art that everyone thought was an ungraded battle art was actually a divine art. It could even increase one's mental strength? Was this a dream? Suddenly, young Master Hao seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Other than the soul-refining art, is there anything else?" "No." Qin Feiyong shook his head. Young Master Hao frowned and said, "That's a pity." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "My father said that the inheritance of the first chief tower master contained the opportunity to become a god. Although this soul-refining art is also amazing, compared to the opportunity to become a god, it is too far away." Young Master Hao sighed. This time it was Qin Feiyong's turn to be shocked. Contained the opportunity to become a god? Wasn't this too unbelievable? You don't have to feel regretful. After all, there are gains and losses. As for the soul-refining art, to me it's worthless. But to you it's worth a lot. After all, you're an alchemist. Young Master Hao laughed. Qin Feiyong nodded. This made sense. Because to an alchemist, nothing was more important than mental strength. This time we've both gained something. Why don't we go to the Dragon Phoenix house and celebrate? Young Master Hao suggested. Celebrate? Qin Feiyong's face twitched, and he said speechlessly, "I think the celebration is fake. The real reason is to see the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house." Young Master Hao looked a little embarrassed when his thoughts were seen through. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. "I have to go to the martial arts treasury immediately. I don't think I can go to the Dragon Phoenix house." "Why are you going to the martial arts treasury?" Young Master Hao looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong said, "The jade scroll I obtained before was only a small part of the soul-refining art." "A small part? Then isn't it incomplete?" Young Master Hao was surprised. That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded weakly. No wonder those people who obtained the soul refining art in the past couldn't comprehend it. It turns out that it was incomplete. Young Master Hao said in realization. Not only is it incomplete, but it's also a divine art. It would be strange if they could comprehend it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Thinking about his previous actions, he was really stupid. Not to mention that the soul refining art was incomplete, just the fact that the soul refining art was a divine art, even if he was given the complete cultivation chant, he would definitely not be able to comprehend it. Because with his current state of mind and comprehension, it was not enough to comprehend the divine art. Alright then, I'll go over first. When you're done, if it's still early, go to the Dragon Phoenix house to find me. Young Master Hao said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Young Master Hao immediately opened the teleportation gate and left. Qin Feiyang also opened the teleportation gate and directly descended on top of the martial arts treasury. Elder Wang was still sitting in front of the gate. At this moment, a young man in black was standing in front of Elder Wang and saying something. The young man in black was about 1.8 meters tall and straight like a pine tree. He had bright eyes and white teeth, and his facial features were as if they were carved by a knife. In Qin Feiyang's eyes, this was a very unfamiliar face. At the same time, Elder Wang and the young man in black also sensed Qin Feiyang's aura, and they both raised their heads to look at Qin Feiyang. A smile immediately appeared on Elder Wang's face. The young man in black's pupils shrank, and then he smiled at Qin Feiyang in a friendly manner. Qin Feiyang also nodded his head politely, but he was somewhat suspicious in his heart. The smile on the young man in black's face was indeed there, but he did not feel any friendliness at all. On the contrary, in the eyes of the young man in black, he could feel a strong bloody aura. This bloody aura even made him feel disgusted from the bottom of his heart. Boom! Elder Wang waved his hand, and the gate of the martial arts treasury quickly opened. He then looked at the young man in black and said with a smile, "Go in." Yes. The young man in black bowed and then entered the martial arts treasury. After the gate closed, Qin Feiyang also landed in front of Elder Wang and cupped his hands. "Greetings, Elder Wang." Elder Wang nodded and said with a smile, "I heard from the Chief Pagoda Master that you have obtained the inheritance of the first Chief Pagoda Master. I was just lucky." Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. "This is not luck, it's an opportunity. You have to cherish this opportunity. After all, after so many years, you are the second person to obtain the inheritance of the old man. And the first person to obtain the inheritance was the previous Chief Pagoda Master." Elder Wang reminded. "I will." Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wang asked, "Then why are you looking for me this time?" "I came this time to ask Elder Wang if the rest of the soul refining skill is also in the martial arts treasury?" Qin Feiyang said. Elder Wang squinted his eyes slightly and asked suspiciously, "What do you mean?" "To be honest, the inheritance I obtained this time is the soul refining skill. But there are only insights, no incantations," Qin Feiyang said truthfully. He had already told this matter to young Master Hao, and young Master Hao would definitely tell the Chief Pagoda Master, so this matter could not be hidden. After hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Elder Wang's body immediately trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and shook his head with a smile. It seems that Elder Wang also knows the true origin of the soul refining skill. Elder Wang's reaction was enough to explain everything. He was indeed lying to him before. Phew! Elder Wang sized up Qin Feiyang, and after a moment, he let out a long breath and nodded. "Yes, I know. Not only me, but the 3 elders guarding the place of inheritance and the previous Chief Pagoda Master also know." Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Then why did you make up a lie to deceive everyone?" "It's a long story." Chapter 950. Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Wang quietly, not bothering him. When the first Pagoda Master passed away, he left behind the soul refining technique, in hopes that someone in the future could comprehend it. But he didn't think that the profound and unfathomable deity formula was not something that ordinary people like us could comprehend. After a long while, Old Wang withdrew his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang nodded. That was a very apt statement. The second pagoda master, the third pagoda master, and the current pagoda master all went into seclusion to comprehend the soul refining technique, but none of them succeeded. I tried to, but it was too profound. I couldn't comprehend the true meaning behind it at all. Slowly we gave up. But the soul refining technique was created by the first pagoda master himself. It's the symbol of our pill pagoda and our spiritual pillar. We can't just let it be lost, right? Thus, after our discussion, we finally decided to place our hopes on you youngsters. But if the complete soul refining technique was made public, it would definitely cause a commotion. It might even lead to a bloodbath. So to prevent that from happening, we separated the complete soul refining technique into 10 parts and placed them on the 10 floors of the martial arts treasury. We also hid all the information about the soul refining technique and claimed that it was a gradeless technique. And the jade slip you got was only the first part. Elder Wang explained. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang came to a realization, then frowned and said, then have you ever thought that if the complete soul refining technique is already so difficult to comprehend, wouldn't it be even harder to comprehend it after splitting it up? Of course we thought about it. But the first part is the easiest. If you can't even comprehend the simplest part, how can you comprehend the later parts? Am I right? Elder Wang smiled. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. But in the end we still underestimated the soul refining technique. Over the years, many young people have obtained the first part, and many of them were monstrous geniuses, but none of them were able to comprehend it. As for you, if you hadn't obtained the inheritance of the first chief tower master, you probably wouldn't have been able to comprehend it either. Old Wang said. Qin Feiyang did not deny it. Deity arts and battle arts were not on the same level. If he wanted to comprehend the god incantation on his own, he would have to become a god first. Qin Feiyang asked, what was the inheritance of the previous chief pagoda master? Elder Wang shook his head and said, she didn't mention it to anyone, so I don't know either. I heard young Master Hao say that the inheritance of the first chief tower master contains an opportunity to become a god. Is this true? Qin Feiyang asked again. It's true. Elder Wang nodded and smiled. Although you didn't obtain the opportunity to become a god, to be able to obtain the experience of the soul refining technique is also a great fortune. After a pause, Elder Wang continued, moreover, no matter what inheritance you obtain, as long as you obtain the inheritance of the first chief tower master, you will be the successor of the chief tower master in the future. Successor? Qin Feiyang looked startled and said in surprise, there's such a thing. Yes. This is the will of the first chief tower master. No one can go against it. Elder Wang nodded. In that case, won't I be the next chief tower master? Qin Feiyang was a little dumbfounded. In fact, the chief tower master had told young Master Hao about this in the inheritance land, but because it was through voice transmission, Qin Feiyang did not hear it. Don't be happy too early. Although you are now the next chief tower master, you still need to be alive. So no matter what you do in the future, you have to be careful. Elder Wang exhorted meaningfully. I understand. Qin Feiyang nodded. To be honest, he was not interested in the position of chief tower master at all. But this way, his relationship with the chief tower master would be one step closer. After all, he was now not only the chief tower master's disciple, but also the successor of the chief tower master. This would undoubtedly be more beneficial to snatching the heavenly star flame and the five-colored crystal in the future. Elder Wang, since this disciple has already obtained the inheritance of the first chief tower master, then can the remaining 9 parts of the soul refining technique be given to this disciple? Qin Feiyang asked, his eyes full of desire. This, Elder Wang hesitated for a moment and said, logically speaking, since you have obtained the inheritance of the old man, it can be considered that you have obtained the old man's approval, so it should be given to you. But a few days ago, the chief tower master said that you have to find the remaining 9 parts yourself. Find it myself? Qin Feiyang frowned. Elder Wang laughed. Don't be dissatisfied. This old man can see that the chief tower master is doing this for your own good. For my own good? Qin Feiyang frowned even more. Because he really couldn't see how this was for his own good. Seeing this, Elder Wang also raised his eyebrows and said, this old man asks you, now that you have entered the martial arts treasury, what do you need? Contribution points. Qin Feiyang said without hesitation. Then how do you get the contribution points? Elder Wang asked again. Capture all kinds of beasts alive. Qin Feiyang said. That's right. Capturing beasts alive is much more difficult than killing beasts, and without a certain method, it can't be done. Therefore, the Chief Tower Master is doing this to give you an opportunity to test and gain experience. Elder Wang said. Alright, I accept. Qin Feiyang lowered his head helplessly. This was the Chief Tower Master's order. He had no choice but to accept it. Looking at Qin Feiyang's dejected look, Elder Wang couldn't help but shake his head and laugh and said, How about this? This old man will show you the way, and I guarantee that you will be able to obtain all the soul refining techniques in the shortest time possible. Please speak. Qin Feiyang's spirit was lifted, and he raised his head to look at Elder Wang expectantly. When I separated the soul refining techniques, in order to make it easier to find, this old man deliberately left a trace of aura in the 10 jade slips. This aura is very weak, others can't sense it, but the 10 jade slips can sense each other. When you go to the top 9 floors, as long as you take out the jade slip you obtained on the first floor, it will immediately help you find the other 9 jade slips. Elder Wang laughed. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. One had to know. There were countless jade slips on each floor of the martial arts treasure house, and they were all stored in the same stone box without any markings. If he were to rely on himself to find them, he didn't know how long it would take for him to find all the jade slips. This undoubtedly saved him a lot of time. He bowed and said, Thank you, Elder Wang. It's nothing. Elder Wang smiled and said, This old man originally wanted to have a good chat with you, but seeing your impatient look, I won't waste your time. Then this disciple will take his leave first. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, All right. Elder Wang nodded and suddenly said, This old man will give you a coordinate. The fierce beasts there are basically between 1-star War Master and 5-star War Saint. They won't pose a fatal threat to you. After saying that, Elder Wang gave the coordinates to Qin Feiyang. Thank you, Elder Wang. After Qin Feiyang memorized the coordinates, he thanked him again, opened the teleportation gate, and walked in without looking back. Not long after the teleportation gate disappeared, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was the black-clothed youth who had entered the martial arts treasure house earlier, holding a simple and unadorned stone box in his hand. After the black-clothed youth appeared, he immediately opened the stone box and took out a jade slip. After looking at it carefully, a trace of disappointment gradually appeared on his face. Sigh. Why is it so difficult to get a perfect battle art? Next, the black-clothed youth sighed and walked in front of Elder Wang, handing the jade slip and the stone box to Elder Wang. If it was so easy to get, then it wouldn't be called a perfect battle art. Elder Wang took the jade slip and the stone box and said with a faint smile. Although there was a smile on his old face, it wasn't as amiable as when he was facing Qin Feiyang. The black-clothed youth smiled bitterly, took out his identity token and handed it to Elder Wang. There was a rule in the martial arts treasure house that if the disciple of the main tower wasn't satisfied with the battle art he had obtained, he could return it to the martial arts treasure house. This way, he would be able to return 1/10 of the contribution points. Elder Wang grabbed the identity token and waved his hand. A stream of light swept into the token and then returned it to the black-clothed youth. After the black-clothed youth kept the identity token, he looked around and asked suspiciously, Where's Ancestor Mu? He went to the White Tiger Mountain Range to earn contribution points. Elder Wang smiled faintly, then sat in front of the pagoda and closed his eyes to rest. White Tiger Mountain Range, the black-clothed youth's eyes flashed, opened a teleportation gate, and disappeared without a trace. At the same time, White Tiger Mountain Range. This vast mountain range was located in the west of the Central Divine Kingdom, about 5,000 to 6,000 miles away from the Divine City. In the mountain range, ancient trees towered into the sky. Qin Feiyang stood in the air above a giant mountain peak, lowering his head and scanning the area below. The forest below was dense, and the vines were like horned dragons. In the forest there were countless fierce beasts, but the strongest was only a 5-star war sect, so their value wasn't great. After watching for a while, Qin Feiyang turned into a stream of light and flew towards the depths of the mountain range. As he went deeper and deeper, the aura of the fierce beasts became stronger and stronger. After flying for about 500 to 600 miles, Qin Feiyang could already sense the fierce beast aura of the Nine-Star War sect. But now the fierce beasts of the Nine-Star War sect couldn't enter his eyes. He continued forward. Along the way, he also encountered some medicinal herbs and picked them up. Roar! Boom! Suddenly, the faint roar of a beast came from the left, as well as the sound of a mountain collapsing. Qin Feiyang stopped in the air and looked in the direction of the sound. He could vaguely see that the mountains and rivers there were crazily collapsing. Whiz! He made a turn in the air, and like a bolt of lightning he rushed over there. About 100 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang landed on the peak of a mountain, walked to the edge of the cliff, and scanned the area in front of him. Soon, his gaze was locked onto the area in front of him. In the distance, a white-clothed woman was locked in battle with a ferocious beast. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions. Within a radius of more than 10 miles, the mountains and rivers shattered, the earth collapsed and magma erupted from the ground, dyeing half the sky red. The woman in white had her back facing Qin Feiyang, so he couldn't see her true appearance. However, her figure was beautiful, and her waist was slender. His cultivation was also not bad, 8-Star War sect. However, that back view gave Qin Feiyang an inexplicable sense of familiarity. As for that fierce beast, it was a fire dragon lizard. The fire dragon lizard was also a species from 10,000 years ago. It had the tail of a dragon and the head of a lizard. However, compared to a real dragon, it was much smaller. It was only 3 to 4 meters long and its entire body was scarlet red, as if it was cast from magma. However, the ferocious might it emitted was rather astonishing. Its cultivation was slightly stronger than the woman in white. 9-Star War sect. It seems that it's a bit difficult for an 8-Star War sect to deal with the 9-Star War sect's fire dragon lizard. Right? Qin Feiyang muttered. According to the ancient records, the fire dragon lizard had a thick layer of scales on its body, similar to the scales on a crocodile. These scales were extremely tough, and humans of the same realm were almost unable to break through them. Furthermore, the saliva that the fire dragon lizard spat out carried a type of toxin that could numb one's nerves. Although the woman in white had mastered a battle art, she would have to pay a huge price to kill this fire dragon lizard. As expected, the fire dragon lizard suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a transparent saliva. The woman in white seemed to know that the saliva contained poison, so she didn't fight back. She turned around and quickly dodged to the side. It's her. Just as the woman in white turned around, Qin Feiyang also saw the side of her face, and his expression froze. So this woman was Chu Xian. This world was really small to be able to meet her here. He had to admit that this was fate. Chapter 951. Performance. Fatso was startled, somewhat baffled. Look over there. Qin Feiyang pointed to Chu Xian, who was fighting fiercely with the fire dragon lizard. Fatso suspiciously turned his head to look, and a trace of excitement immediately crawled up his face. Roar! At the same time, just as Chu Xian was dodging the saliva, the fire dragon lizard roared towards the sky and instantly rushed behind Chu Xian. Its scaled dragon tail swept out and fiercely slapped towards Chu Xian's back. Puff! Chu Xian let out a miserable groan and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Like a meteorite, he crashed into the ruins below and was drowned in dust. A mere 8-Star War sect dares to challenge this emperor? You really don't know what's good for you. The fire dragon lizard's ferocious nature erupted as it opened its wide mouth, revealing its white fangs as it rushed towards Chu Xian. Qin Feiyang laughed. If you don't help, your sweetheart will most likely be in trouble. Fatso suddenly quivered and immediately rushed over. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang pulled him back and frowned. Before you go save her, shouldn't you change your appearance first? Fatso was now in his original appearance. And back then in the 9 regions, Fatso had also appeared a lot, so many people knew him. If Fatso were to rush out like this now, it was very likely that he would be recognized by Chu Xian. At that time, his identity would naturally be exposed. That's right. Fatso slapped his head, secretly cursing himself for being so muddle-headed that he almost messed up the big picture. Then, he took out an illusory form pill and threw it into his mouth. His appearance immediately changed. In less than 3 breaths, he turned into the appearance he had when he first entered the central divine kingdom. His body was still very fat, but his face and eyes had undergone a qualitative change. Even Qin Feiyang might not be able to recognize him if he didn't know about it. Whiz! After changing his appearance, Fatso did not dare to delay for a moment, and rushed towards Chu Xian like lightning. At this moment, Chu Xian had already crawled out from the dust. She was covered in blood and her face was pale. The fire dragon lizard was only a dozen or so meters away from Chu Xian. Its bell-like ferocious eyes flashed with a frightening light. Looking at the rapidly approaching fire dragon lizard, Chu Xian's delicate body trembled in despair. But at this moment, Fatso stood in front of Chu Xian like a heavenly soldier. Who? Chu Xian was shocked. But then she realized that this figure seemed familiar. The fire dragon lizard naturally saw Fatso. However, not only did it not stop, the ominous glint in its eyes became even more astonishing. You're courting death. Fatso smiled disdainfully. He stretched out his arm and punched the fire dragon lizard's head. Roar! The fire dragon lizard was sent flying on the spot, howling in pain. The hard scales on its head were shattered by Fatso's punch and blood gushed out. So strong! Chu Xian, who was at the back, was dumbstruck. The fire dragon lizard had the cultivation of a 9-star war master, and its intelligence was not inferior to a human's. After receiving Fatso's punch, it knew that it was much stronger than the woman behind it. It decisively turned around and fled. You want to run? Fatso grinned, using the return to 1 step. He chased after it like lightning and stepped on the back of the fire dragon lizard. Bang! The fire dragon lizard was like a meteorite as it smashed into the ground below, creating a deep crater. Following that, Fatso also landed beside the fire dragon lizard. He turned to look at Chu Xian, who was not far away, and revealed a smile that he thought was very handsome. It's you. However, when Chu Xian saw Fatso's face, his brows knitted tightly together. The smile on Fatso's face froze and he said helplessly, Do you not like me that much? Chu Xian was silent. I admit that in terms of looks and family background, I can't compare to Guofeng, but in terms of character, I'm more than 100 times better than him. Let's not talk about being lovers, but we can still be friends. Fatso hung his head dejectedly, his face full of disappointment. Hearing these words, Chu Xian couldn't help but look at Fatso. Suddenly, she smiled, walked in front of Fatso and said, Thank you. No need, no need. It's a small matter. Fatso was startled, and immediately raised his head to look at Chu Xian, waving his hand, somewhat at a loss. Looking at Fatso's current appearance, Chu Xian couldn't help but want to laugh. This person was quite cute. But she endured it and said with a cold face, But don't think that just because you saved me, I will repay you. Before Chu Xian could finish, Fatso hurriedly said, No, I never thought of asking you to repay me. In the end, Chu Xian couldn't hold it in and laughed out loud. She said helplessly, All right, I'm not a tigress, don't be so reserved. I won't pursue what happened in the past. As for the future. At this point, Chu Xian stopped abruptly, and a sly look flashed in her eyes. In the future? Fatso looked at her anxiously. Why are you so silly? Don't you understand? Of course we will be friends in the future. Chu Xian rolled her eyes at him. Fatso scratched his head and couldn't stop laughing. It's over. It's completely hopeless. Standing on the peak of the mountain, Qin Feiyang looked at this scene and shook his head speechlessly. Fatso was usually a very smart person. Why did he become so silly when he met Chu Xian? Whoosh! He took a step forward and landed behind Chu Xian. Who is it? Sensing Qin Feiyang's aura, Chu Xian immediately turned around, her face full of vigilance. Why are you here? However, when she saw that it was Qin Feiyang, the vigilance on her face was replaced by surprise. Qin Feiyang pointed at Fatso and smiled. If he's here, I'm definitely here. What's your relationship? Chu Xian looked at the two of them suspiciously. Fatso glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at Chu Xian and said, He's my big brother. Big brother? Chu Xian was surprised and asked, Biological big brother? Faced with this question, Fatso was a little hesitant, not knowing how to answer. Qin Feiyang nodded without hesitation. Yes, biological big brother. This? Chu Xian looked at the two of them strangely. Why didn't they look like biological brothers? Ahem. Qin Feiyong coughed dryly and teased, to be honest, he's not biological. My parents picked him up by the river. Fatso's face darkened and he said angrily, get lost, you're the one who picked him up. Still denying it? Why don't you go back and ask Mom? Qin Feiyong looked at him mockingly. I'll ask. Fatso snorted coldly. Looking at the two of them arguing, Chu Xian's expression became more and more strange. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly and waved his hand. Okay, let's stop joking. We're not biological brothers, we're sworn brothers. I see. Chu Xian suddenly realized. How could two people with such a big difference be biological brothers from the same mother? Qin Feiyong looked at Chu Xian and asked, what are you doing here? Chu Xian said helplessly, isn't it to earn contribution points? What about you guys? Me too. Qin Feiyong nodded. Chu Xian looked at Fatso again. Because Fatso was not a disciple of the main tower. Fatso smiled and said, I'm here to accompany him. I'm bored anyway. Chu Xian nodded and said, how's your harvest? Fatso said, I just came here so I didn't get anything. What about you? Chu Xian looked at the dying fire dragon lizard and sighed. You saw it too. I'm going to catch it, but it seems that I can't do it with my strength. Fatso said, that's easy. You just have to bring it back now. But you defeated it. Chu Xian frowned. It doesn't matter who defeated it. Besides, we're friends now. There's no need to be polite with us. The fatty was very generous and said with a heroic smile. Is this okay? Chu Xian looked at the two of them and hesitated. Of course. Fatso nodded without hesitation. Chu Xian struggled for a moment, but finally accepted Fatso's kindness and said gratefully, thank you. I told you not to be so polite. If you continue to be like this, we'll be angry. Fatso said unhappily. Looking at Fatso, who was full of sincerity, Chu Xian also showed a sincere smile on her face. Then, she looked at Qin Feiyong and said, congratulations. Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked suspiciously, what are you congratulating me for? Still playing dumb. Now, the entire Central Divine Kingdom already knows that you're going to be the Chief Tower Master's disciple, Chu Xian said. Everyone knows? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Yes. I heard that there's going to be a ceremony. They even invited the leaders and high priests of the various super tribes. Chu Xian said. This? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Why didn't anyone tell him about such a big thing? Even if they didn't discuss it, they should at least inform him in advance. After all, he was the one involved. This is a joyous occasion. Why do you look a little unhappy? Chu Xian looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, it's too ostentatious. I don't like it. Chu Xian was stunned. If it was someone else, they would have already spread the news everywhere. However, this person was not happy about it. What a weirdo. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let me ask, how do you exchange the wild beasts you capture for contribution points? Qin Feiyong said. Chu Xian said, you still don't know? Qin Feiyong said, I didn't ask in detail. Chu Xian was speechless. He didn't even ask around before coming to hunt. How careless was this person? War Emperor, War Master, War Saint, and War Emperor level wild beasts can all be exchanged for contribution points. The only difference is the amount. 1-star War Emperor level wild beasts can be exchanged for 1 contribution point, and so on. And 1-star War Master level wild beasts can be exchanged for 10 contribution points. 2-star War Master level wild beasts can be exchanged for 20 contribution points. As for War Saint level wild beasts, they can be exchanged for even more contribution points. 1-star War Saint level wild beasts can be exchanged for 100 contribution points. If it's a 1-star War Emperor level wild beast, then it can be exchanged for 1,000 contribution points. Chu Xian explained in detail. Qin Feiyong nodded his head and asked again, then how many contribution points do we need to enter each level of the martial art treasury? The first level, 100 contribution points. The second level, 200 contribution points. The third level, 300 contribution points, and so on. And if we want to go to the 10th level, we need 1,000 contribution points. Chu Xian said. That's not a lot. A 1-star War Saint level wild beast can be exchanged for 100 contribution points. Let me calculate. Going to the first level, 100 contribution points. Going to the second level, 200 contribution points. I've calculated it. Even if we go to all 10 levels of the martial art treasury, we will only need 5,500 contribution points. 55 1-star War Saint level wild beasts will be enough. Fatso said, "You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."